Hello, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay there. For some reason, my Hangout on Air window was hanging at 99% and was able to. Oh, somebody, me, has a window open, apparently. Where is that coming from? Must be on this. There we go. Ah, that's what a rank amateur does. Hello, Ray and Nick Anderson. Oh, wait a minute. I've been talking to you for a while. Rebecca.
Hi,
Rebecca,
Captain Jim.
I want you to know something. You ain't nobody, Rebecca. There you go.
Now, what is that joke? I missed out on something.
I don't know where that came from, actually. Hello, Glenn, Ray, Rebecca, Liz, Mike Kuipers. How you doing, man? Oh, I need to turn that off.
Why? What a big bed you have, Captain Jeff.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'd say something clever, but I just can't think of anything, so I won't.
Oh, I was going to say, where's Grandma?
She's in the bathroom putting on her makeup. Good morning.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
He's having his first coffee of the day, Glenn. Well done.
A good late evening to you, Captain Nick.
Thank you, sir. And the same to you. I'm just seeing what Liz has bought today. A nice purse at a very nice sale price. B&H tomorrow. Well, I've closed my account down, Liz, so you'll be stuck. You have to pay for it yourself.
Nev is being naughty.
Yes, I know. They're not teeth, Mark. They're notches, Nev. He's got about 20 of them, I think.
This is the first time that I've been to this room, I should point out. So they're not my notches. And that's my official.
Your official stance
on the official stance. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I should turn off the volume on this TV channel that I have on. The college football championship game is on tonight here in the United States.
Of course, yes.
Alabama.
Who's playing again?
University of Alabama Elephants. And the some people call it the Crimson Tide, but their official mascot is the elephant. And the Clemson Tigers. Let me put it on mute. People that are fans of Alabama don't like to. They don't like it. Them referred to as elephants.
Okay. If we see your gaze drifting off to the right, then we'll know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
Touchdown!
You won't be able to tell because I'll do this. Okay. Yes, I'm fascinated with everything you were saying.
Yes. I can understand that.
Sorry. What were you saying? I'm sorry. Were you talking to me?
That's right. Would you prefer I ran the show tonight, Jeff? I could give it a go. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
You could kick back with your beer.
Okay.
Just like I normally do. I'm only joking.
All right. Let's see. I'm using the internal FaceTime built-in camera on my MacBook this time instead of the external that I normally use.
Pretty good quality. That looks all right. Saving a bit of weight.
Well, I actually have the other one with me. I just didn't feel like connecting it. I thought, well, I'm going to see how it works with the built-in camera just to kind of experiment a bit. A nice bottle of Tanglefoot.
Yes, the legendary Tanglefoot. And the reason I like it very much is that there is, amongst our little clan of gun dog owners, is a lovely lady, Sarah, who has a Vizsla called Tanglefoot. And he writes, this dog, being a very clever dog, writes a hugely amusing blog. And it's just hilarious. I've actually written 3 books so far, all for charity, all goes towards various Vizsla rescues and things. But they're great fun. So whenever I see a Tanglefoot beer, I can't but think about her silly dog and the funny things it gets up to. And I always have to buy it.
Nice. Very cool. Well, we're waiting for Miss Steph, Dr. Steph. She was just about to leave her practice, and then somebody showed up late at the last minute, causing her
Come. Mrs. Anderson is saying good night because she's off to bed.
Good night to all.
Good night, Mrs. Anderson.
I'm here.
She's here, and now she's going to bed. And not in the bedroom that we sleep in up there because it's too noisy. Every time she moves, we get a dreadful creaking. So she's actually decamping to the spare bedroom tonight.
Oh, you can go up there. Who cares? We can't hear it.
She can't hear you, Jeff. It's just such a shame. There you are being nice to her. I'm not going to tell her. Yeah, very good. He's telling you that we don't mind the noise. You can go up there. But,
okay.
It's self-imposed exile, Jeff.
It's your noise that's the problem.
Yeah. Oh,
He laughs too loud.
You see, you guys make me laugh too loud. I keep her awake.
We thought it was her being polite to you, but
well, I thought there was an element to that in it, but apparently not. In fact, she doesn't care about me at all.
she just wants to get some sleep.
All right, darling.
You can blame her. It's so late there. Thank you for staying out so late.
Oh, that's all right. We're starting earlier than we normally do, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I have had a busy day, so I've kicked my shoes off already because legs ache.
Well, we need to maybe consider possibly, I don't know, trying to do these on like the weekend on a early morning. And so it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a possibility, I guess.
Like on Saturday mornings or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's just depends when we're all together. No, I don't mind doing the odd late night one because I got nothing on much this week. So no, I was out walking the dogs because Jilly's knee's giving her jip. She's going in for an operation next week
on her knees,
and all on one knee in particular. So I was walking the dogs, and then I had to do my stress ECG treadmill test this afternoon. Pounded up and down that with knees that were already a bit sore was tough, but there you go. Life's a bitch, then you die.
Yeah, was it a stressful treadmill?
Well, I passed it, so it can't have been too stressful. No, and I made the full distance, so that's always good.
Yeah, that is good for sure.
Yep. Apparently the ticker's still going.
That's good as well.
Yeah.
I think my ticker is still ticking.
Good.
And I'm still drinking my beet juice to keep my blood pressure low.
Is it working?
Horrible stuff. Really good.
Well, I like beetroot. I like pickled beetroot. I don't like fresh beetroot.
I just don't like anything to do with beets.
Oh, really? Don't they make sugar out of beets?
They do. It's a natural sweetener. Yeah. The stuff that really does a nice job with my blood pressure is the pure pressed beet into a beet juice that they put into a glass container and sold at my store in the juice section. And it's just horrible tasting, but it does wonders for my blood pressure.
Well, Glenn said he'd rather have high BP. I take rosuvastatin myself, which has some remarkably good effects in other areas, not just blood pressure. It's been
really?
Yeah, with
wow.
Yeah, exactly. So, yep. Having said that, I do have a slightly healthy thing in the morning. So I start each day with frozen spinach, some fruit, blueberries, banana, walnuts, little coconut, water. I stick some ginger and a few other bits and bobs in and grind that all up into a breakfast smoothie, which is relatively low on sugar because it's only got a bit of fruit in there, but high on fiber and good stuff. Good for your yum necks. So that's my start of the day. That's my healthy kick.
Yeah, you were doing that when we were there, I think, over the summer.
Still doing it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, this I also get this beetroot juice extract powder that I can mix in with banana and apple juice and that kind of thing and make a nice smoothie out of it. That's much more tolerable. But
that sounds, yeah, exactly. Everyone's saying, "Hey, hi, Captain Rick." Is Rick in the
I think Captain Rick Bell, Richard Bell.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Richard. Captain Rick, USAF captain.
Right. You know, in this country, we have a lot of fun with that name.
Captain Rick. Why? Is there a character that
Richard shortens to Dick?
Ah.
And Bell has certain connotations there which are associated with Richard shortening. So yeah, we can have some fun.
Is that something you wear in the UK?
To let you can put it on your head.
Suspecting women know you're right.
You can put it on.
Please wear your bell on your Rick.
There you go. I think Richard's probably had that joke many times before in the past.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he has.
He's laughing.
Yeah, but I think it looks like one of those strained laughters.
So Rich, Bell, Captain Bell there. I guess we need to talk to see, how everything is going for the May event and whether I'm supposed to be booking my own or our own hotel rooms or how that's all going. So Richard's call sign is Dickie or Taco. Okay.
2 tacos? Taco 1 or Taco 2?
So to reiterate, we're as I was mentioning earlier, Dr. Steph was delayed because of her late patient, but she is making her way home. We told her not to drive like a mad woman, and she'll be.
I don't think that's going to stop her.
No, probably not.
I think she drives that way regardless.
Nah, she's a good driver.
She is. She's good for a mad woman. She's very good.
So there we go.
So it's nice to have a connection this time. Yeah, it's so pleasant. Instead of
I can hear every word you're saying, and I'm thinking, hey, it's not going to be so difficult to do the editing this week.
No, yes, I apologize. That must have been a nightmare for you.
So every time you break up, I try to all those little spaces or interruptions in the packets, then I have to delete each one of those little gaps. So every couple of words, I have to
all that out. That's brilliant.
Well, I try. Sometimes it works, and sometimes the packets never arrive, and so it just sounds like gibber.
Yeah. Well, I gibber a lot anyway.
I figured everybody was used to your gibberish, so
yeah, sure. Now, the name of the Plain Tales, if you got the pronunciation of that, because I don't know if
Jonathan,
your Hebrew is one of your languages.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently,
I actually listened to it. So
Jonathan, you listened to it? Good Lord! Even I don't do that.
I was listening to it at the while I was getting stuff ready.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Yeah, I wish I could have put a bit more time into that one, but I mean, quite honestly,
that was very good.
Sometimes the more time you put, the worse you make it. If you know what I mean. You try. Yeah, sometimes it's better to do it when it's fresh.
As Nev says, we were talking earlier on our group tweet regarding the show and show preparation and everything else, and Nev said that the shows that we prepare the least for are the ones that are usually the best. So now it's my New Year's resolution that I will not prepare at all for anything.
Tony, yes, that is a very young Captain Anderson when he was a Flight Lieutenant Anderson. At least I think he was. Yeah, it looks like I was still a Flight Lieutenant then. And we were out
I didn't know you were a flight attendant.
Yeah, there you go. We were out for a live bombing event on a range up in northern Australia, That I think is called Magnetic Hill. The airfield is at Townsville, and the range target was actually an island on the inner part of the Great Barrier Reef. And these are 2,000-pounders, which make a big bang. I promise you. When they come off, well, they don't make a bang when they come off. The airplane wobble a bit when they come off, but they make a very big bang on the ground. One of those where you actually see the shockwave expanding out. Very impressive.
So you wouldn't want to be hit in the head with one of those?
No, not really. Not really. Okay. They got quite a big frag envelope as well, so you tend not to deliver them when in a sort of level. Certainly they're slicks anyway, so you would never deliver them level or even a 15-degree dive. We tended to use 45-degree dives for those, so we got plenty of height when we pulled off. Yeah, it was good fun.
Excellent.
Those are the days.
Oh, shit.
The guys used to write on chalk on the bombs that they sent across in the Second World War, messages on them. I used to write on my bombs as well. I used to give them names like Balfang and Kerfwamp. All very childish.
Steph says, I'm here, but I'm waiting for my Evernote to start working. Well, good luck.
Have you got an Apple computer? Will it ever get going? By the way, I quite like my new Mac. It seems to do all the stuff. It's a bit annoying having to plug all those dongles in the side to connect everything up to it. But
yeah, that's the downside of the...
Yeah, but it is nice and slim, so it fits in my briefcase well.
Good.
A 1/32 scale Hornet. What kind of engines you put in that, Ray? And will it fly? Hi, Steph.
Hi.
Hello.
Hold on.
Hey, no problem.
We're holding.
Holding.
Can you guys hear me?
Hang on. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Everything coming through the Crick speakers and everything? Okay.
Tap on your microphone. Yep, that's it.
Okay, good.
And Glenn, it was the 75 squadron, 77 squadron. The grumpy monkeys on the side. Green flashes, grumpy monkey.
So I'm cleaning out some stuff in the man cave downstairs and all these bins of T-shirts and stuff like that. An inventory that I'm getting rid of now. And so on the top of one of them, I don't remember putting these up there. I think my wife did it. Are all these like certificates from T-37s and all these different squadrons I was in and people signing and, the kind of stuff that Captain Nick has behind him and everything else. So I had probably 4 or 5 of those things on there. And apparently right above where the bin was are some pipes, some plumbing in my house. And they had been there for quite a while apparently and full of mold and mold. And everything was stuck together and ruined every single one of them. So even if I ever wanted to have a love me wall or a love me corner, I don't have one anymore.
Oh no, that's such a shame.
I had to throw them away.
Oh no.
Memories can't be what? What are we talking about?
I was just going to say, Jeff, you've got a great black background there. You might want to flick a light on when you get a spare moment.
Okay, that's the set director there. Here, let me do something there.
Taco, what are you barking at already?
Oh God! Now we can see all the stains on his sheets.
Yeah, turn the lights back off. Turn them off.
Yeah. Oh, now his hair's all mussed up. You got mussed up hair. We can see the stains on your sheets now.
Better just turn those lights back off.
Turn the lights off then. Nev was already talking about the notches in the headboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you like my dancing?
Hold on. Yes, that was very nice.
Yeah, very dad dancing. Dad dancing, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Steph.
No, I don't know what Taco's barking at already.
It doesn't
Ah,
matter.
and my phone too. Gosh, I'm just making all kinds of noise. Aren't I? Hold on. I'll be right back.
Sure.
We'll get started with this eventually, I promise.
Yeah, sure. Well, I got my exercise in right there.
Yeah, your exercise. Oh, right.
Okay.
Now, what was that called? It was called. Oh God! It's a phrase.
very-
My cardiac.
You're very, very funny, Nick. You're a very funny man.
Who me? You spotted it. Damn! I just.
You think I'm like Ron Burgundy and I'm just going to read everything?
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I thought I'd give it a go. You never know. If you know.
Like I'm just gonna read the teleprompter and not even really.
I love it.
So Nick puts in there. So I have a little script here. Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show. The view from the naked pilot side of the door.
Oh, who put that in there? I see that.
I don't know. I'm joker.
You know, maybe if you hadn't capitalized it, I might have. Noticed.
Well, the previous one was capitalized, so I thought that.
Well, I was trying to emphasize. Okay, I got you. So you won't let me correct it now. They're saying somebody else's. Okay, no. It was someone else's.
Somebody had put a new Plain Tales episode. Airbus sucks.
I didn't
who
put
did
that.
that?
I don't know who did that. I didn't do that.
Well, you see, when I came to put
I
today's
saw
Plain Tales
you put it
episode
there. No, that makes sense now. That, I couldn't figure out why you put.
Well,
Boeing sucks more.
I'm assuming that Rick did that. So,
Rick, yes, Captain Bell. This is a family show. A very messed up.
Depends on your definition of family.
That's right.
We're a very dysfunctional family. I do apologize.
Dysfunctional family. So it's Operation Yonatan? Yonatan?
Yeah, it's
Yonatan.
Same as Jonathan, but Yonatan.
Oh, okay.
I don't pronounce it particularly well, but
Gotcha. Okay.
And there's several others. I was going to have a chat with Micah. We were all set up to have a bit of a talk through this one because obviously it affects. There's a fair amount of Hebrew terms in it, but I just wasn't up to it. I was a bit wiped out that day because that was the day of my neighbor's incident.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. Steph, there was a question I asked my cardiac specialist today. 2 conditions when the defib won't provide a shock. One is obviously asystolic, a flat line. And the other, she gave something like PSA or
PEA, pulseless electrical activity.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pulse. Yeah, so that was the one I didn't quite understand. I mean, you can explain it on the show, but that was because pulse electrical, pulse.
Yep.
Less electrical.
Pulseless electrical activity.
Pulseless electrical activity. Yeah.
No pulse. No electrical activity.
No. Well, there is electrical activity.
Electrical activity, no pulse.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
it's not the same as fibrillation, which is also
it is not
electrical activity. So I was hoping you'd be able to explain that. I don't want to put you on the spot when we're actually on the show.
No, we're all good.
Get your doctor manual out so that you'll have something to refer to.
Your doctor book. It's only a little thing, isn't it? It's probably about the size of that. Yeah, that's it.
Hold on. Let's see. I've got a small manual over here. Let me just get it out for reference. Hold on.
But
just Google it. Get it down. That's what they do nowadays. They don't need a manual.
No, they just Google. It's exactly right.
You go into the emergency room and they all have their phone.
Oh my God! What's that?
Wow.
It's got to be in here somewhere.
Oh my God. Harrison's. Oh, I thought it would be Grey's Anatomy.
No, that's just anatomy. We're not worried about anatomy.
Oh, okay.
A little bit.
That's just anatomy. Oh,
that's what she said.
Not that anatomy.
Okay, sound check. Can you guys hear? Did you hear Michael Scott say?
That's what she said.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. How about this? thing. I feel
That
better
didn't
now.
hear a thing.
Well, that accounts for a lot.
Yep.
Let's see.
But I can smell something awful.
your olfactory sense is still
Yes.
working.
Absolutely.
Or is it olfactory? Olfactory or olfactory? Or old factory? No, that's not it. That's what I smell like. An old factory. Let me go back to this and might as well just start this thing. What do you think?
Oh, yes, go for it.
Sure.
Okay, so we're recording on Hangouts. Let me go over here to audio imaging.
I don't think Taco's ever going to give up on the barking.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
all right. We don't even hear it anymore.
Okay, good. It's just
I
part
mean,
of the
you
background.
hear it. It's just like Cedric tweeting in the background.
What's
I went
Cedric
down there.
doing in
I went
your
down there.
hotel room?
What?
What's Cedric doing in your hotel room?
I don't know.
Stowaway in his luggage.
Okay, so that recorder's on, and let me go over here to that thing and say Airline Pilot Guy, episode 254.
Flight 209, you are clear for takeoff. Roger. LA, good morning. 123.9.
Wait a minute. What's that? It's skipping. Did you hear that?
Nope.
Nope.
Breaking up a little bit?
Sounded
No.
fine to me.
Oh, maybe it's just me. Okay.
You're skipping?
Yeah, it's like the music, the soundtrack, the
Yep.
sound file is kind of like distorting or skipping or something.
I didn't hear that.
No.
Okay.
sounded good.
Maybe I have too much going on with my computer. Let me make sure I don't have things open that I don't need to have.
Turn the porn off, Jeff.
Okay. Really? Do I have to? Okay. If you insist. I'll quit Slack. I'll quit Twitter. I don't need Twitter on right now. I'm going to make sure I don't quit something that I really need for the show. Quit Firefox. Hey, Taco. Really, don't worry about it. Or him. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's louder here than it is for you, or at least I hope it is, because it's pretty loud.
I'm sorry, I
and
can't
it's
hear what you're saying because
know.
all the barking.
the barking in the background.
Yeah.
I went down there. There's nothing out there. There's no deer out there. My neighbors aren't out. Their dogs aren't barking. He's just sitting there. I'm like,
That's okay. If you want to bring him into the room, will that stop
I
him
might
from
have.
barking?
I might have to.
Yeah.
So, normally, I mean, he's been at daycare all day. Normally, he just lays down and takes a nap at this point.
Yeah.
I'll give him a few minutes. Then I might
Okay.
have to bring him in.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 254.
Flight 209, you are clear for takeoff. Roger. LA, good morning. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1112 in the Sheraton Hotel in downtown Memphis, Tennessee. In this episode, the horrific mass shooting at Fort Lauderdale International last week. A jet hits a drone. Is this it? The first one, finally? The sky rains poop. More news, your feedback, and a new Plain Tales episode, Operation Yonatan. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 254 is ready for pushback. I almost read that, Nick.
Yeah, I
Nick
saw
added something in my script.
I'm killing myself here.
Eventually, there's going to be something flipped in there that you're just going to read. It's going to be a very Anchorman moment. You're just going to read whatever's on the screen.
Yeah, I didn't read the first one, but I almost read the second one. His sentiment about the Boeing manufacturing company.
Yes. He loves it.
Anyway, yes,
Loves
he
it.
does. Boeing is the greatest. Oh, anyway. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Captain Jeff. I'm a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And also joining me from South Carolina, we have this young lady who is a
Doctor.
doctor
Doctor.
and
Doctor.
a
Doctor.
commercial multi-engine instrument rated pilot, among so many other things. We have the lovely Dr. Steph.
Well, hello. Good to see you both again. Feel like I just saw you guys, but that's okay. Back for another fun episode today. Another week's worth of aviation news and feedback, and always an exciting time.
So are you like complaining that you're seeing us again so soon?
No. On the contrary, I'm actually very excited to be seeing you guys today.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay. Well, also joining us today from across the pond, captain for a European carrier flying the Airbus 330 and 340s, Captain Nick, also an accomplished photographer, amongst other things. Hello,
And
sir.
I can pick my nose with the best of them.
Yes, you can.
Hi there, Captain Jeff. Hi, Steph. I'll try not to do it now because everyone's watching me. Great to be back on the show. And nice to be with you with some bandwidth from jolly old England. The hotel we tried the last show from, for me anyway, it was a nightmare. I know it gave you a lot of extra work, so apologies for that. So hopefully everything will work fine this show. Great to be back here.
Well, you know what they say. You can pick your nose and you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
Oh,
Hmm.
really? Okay.
We've been
Yes.
doing it wrong then, Nick.
I'm trying to remember that.
Great to see you all again. It is Monday of the second week in January, the 9th to be exact. And this just happened to be the best day for the majority of us to record a show. And we're so glad that you're here to listen, and especially those who are with us in the live chat room. Again, just a quick reminder that if you follow us on Twitter or you have one of the APG apps, both on the iOS platform and the Android platform, you'll receive a push notification when we do these things. And sometimes we don't really know when we're going to record until just a few hours before we do. But anyway, it's a lot of fun to hang out with these great people in the chat room. And it's just you get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes goings on when we do the show. And of course, you can always go to the YouTube channel and kind of witness the same thing, although not in real time. So check out our YouTube channel, Airline Pilot Guy, and if you can, again, join us while we're doing this live. And for me, it is a 3-day trip. I left yesterday. Actually, yesterday was really easy for me. I was supposed to go up to LaGuardia and then back to Atlanta, deadhead to Grand Rapids last night or late afternoon. And I was on the way to work, waiting for the train, and I looked down at my phone and got a message from Acme Crew Scheduling that said that the first couple of flights to LaGuardia were canceled and that I should not show up until like 2:15. And so I turned around, drove back home, and was able to sleep a couple more hours and have a nice...
Got some breakfast too, right?
Yeah, actually, before I made it home, I stopped at Waffle House and I had a nice greasy breakfast.
That's the other name for this show, isn't it?
What? Greasy breakfast?
Waffle House.
Waffle House. Our opinions, we're always waffling, I suppose. But anyway, that's kind of a Southern tradition, mostly here in the U.S. And they have some, I love their food. Great eggs and bacon and toast and waffles. And anyway, and then went home, grabbed a couple of hours of sleep, and did a little bit of exercise on the exercise bike, and then got ready to go back out. And then so it was a nice, easy day for me, and just deadheaded up to Grand Rapids. And then today was a nice, easy day, Grand Rapids to Atlanta, and then here to Memphis. And I've been here, I don't know, since around noon. And that's it. Have another 3-day trip. I get back from this trip on tomorrow, Tuesday, and then I go back out again on Wednesday through Friday. So it's going to be basically 6 days in a row for me this week. What's up with you, Dr. Steph?
So if people watched the last episode, they'll remember that we were kind of talking about some large snow event that we were supposed to get here in the South,
Oh yeah.
which let's just say that the weather guessers, weather forecasters, professional meteorologists as they were, they were a little off on their predictions. The last prediction I saw before it started to actually, before there was any precipitation falling from the sky, was anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of snow, which for this part of the country is a lot of snow, and people are not accustomed to it, and they freak out accordingly. They go to the supermarket and empty all of the shelves of bread and milk. Why those two things? I have no idea. I never buy bread or milk.
You buy the bread, you dip it into the milk, apparently.
Is that how that works? I don't know. Two things that I actually don't purchase on a regular basis. So kind of odd to me. But, everyone's talking about, oh, gosh, if there's a lot of snow, like even on Monday, we're going to have to cancel our clinic hours and cancel school and blah, blah, blah. And they're going on and on and on. I'm like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. So there have been a couple of occasions where it's snowed a significant amount here since I've lived here. But more often than not, what happens is they get all excited. And I think the weather forecasters start to feed into some of that people get excited about. They're talking about an inch of snow, and then all of a sudden people at work around the water cooler are talking about 4 inches of snow, and then all of a sudden it's like a foot of snow, and we're never going to survive. So 5 to 8 inches of snow. Guess how much snow we actually saw here at my house?
5 to 8 centimeters.
Probably something close to that. Probably about an inch, maybe 2.
Quarter of an inch. It didn't even cover the grass.
Oh, quarter of an inch.
Quarter of an inch. Yeah, there really wasn't even any ice underneath it.
1 centimeter. That's amazing.
Yeah. So everyone will be happy to know that I survived Snowmageddon 2017.
Hey.
Excellent.
And
so buying that 4-wheel drive was a complete waste of money then. So.
Complete waste of money. But I did go. I went up to a friend's house over the weekend on yesterday actually, and they're about, I don't know how many miles north of here, 60 miles north of here, and they had about 7.5 inches on the ground. So it was nice. We did some sledding and enjoyed the snow a little bit. But yeah, here in Charlotte, not so much. So, but otherwise, except for that, over the weekend, I stayed home and had a nice, relaxing time. And it was freezing cold today, and I had about a 50% show rate in clinic. So
no correlation.
No correlation at all to, waking up and the temperature being 17 degrees Fahrenheit outside and no one coming to their doctor's appointment today.
It's difficult because in the South, especially, I mean, it's one thing, the northern part of the country, you can always count on a consistent kind of winter snowfall amount and that kind of thing. But in the South, it's kind of a rare thing when we do get one of these events, whether it's snow or ice. And so just a couple of 2-3 years ago, we had, when we've mentioned it before, the snowpocalypse, where they were saying in Atlanta, well, don't worry, if you're living on the north side of town or the middle of Atlanta, it's not going to be a problem. It's going to be south of Atlanta for sure. Well, it turns out that extended well north of Atlanta, and there was all kinds of problems with that. So I think they're kind of gun shy, and they they don't know what to do and what to say. And so I guess they try to prepare people, but then we have this, which is normal, really. They'll say that we're going to get something, and then we just don't get it. But
yeah, well, they I mean, if we do, they really don't have the infrastructure to take care of it here. So it is a big deal, but it's funny to watch the reaction in general.
Yeah, it is, especially if you're like Steph, who is from Philadelphia or Salt Lake City or other parts of the country
Chicago,
where you get real, Chicago, you get a lot of snow. It's not a big deal. But anyway, we got a little bit of snow in Atlanta, but the snow wasn't the problem. It was the ice and the fact that the temperature never got above freezing for a couple of days, and that leads for some interesting driving escapades. But anyway, we managed to make it through that, and nobody in my family crashed the vehicle or ended up in a ditch or anything. So we were good.
You guys salt the roads, don't you, when it gets cold? Yeah,
there were the major roadways, the major thoroughfares, but around where I live in my neighborhood and some of the roads leading to my neighborhood, no, there was no salting or.
My town salted every single road.
Yeah.
So.
No. Glenn can correct me because he's in the chat room, but I think in New Zealand they don't salt the roads ever, and it's one of the reasons their cars last for so long, because we salt our roads continuously in the bad weather, and it just so much corrosion.
Yeah, I think in New Zealand they have skis instead of wheels or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they just keep
Mhm.
crashing.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, so we
By the
did
way,
have
have you
that.
noticed my headgear?
I see you're wearing something. I can't read what it says though.
Well, it's probably a good idea because I'm going to tell everyone. Actually, it won't matter too much. I'll tell everyone that it's actually Safe Jets.
Oh, I see.
See?
Spelled a little bit differently than
Spelled a little differently,
Safe,
but
okay.
yeah, it wasn't that nice. Pilot Pip sent me a Safe Jets baseball hat.
Oh,
And
nice.
it just arrived with a little thank you. I'm not quite sure what for. It was much appreciated. So thank you very much indeed, Pip. I'm wearing it on the show in your honor, and I will go in my flight bag. And because it's a great color, nice red, matches my t-shirt.
Yeah.
And it'll be great to wear when I'm got a bit of sunshine in my eyes. Doesn't happen very often.
Cool.
Awesome.
I like it. Nice color. Matches the shirt too.
Yep.
Not Safe Jets related shirt.
Nope. All right. Hey, I mentioned a little while ago that I was on George Nolly's fantastic Ready for Takeoff podcast. And he sent me an email yesterday or today telling me that it is released. So if you want to listen to me jabber on, I mean, I don't know when you have the time if you're listening to this show, but if you have a lot of extra time and you want to listen to me tell you the story about my flying and all that kind of stuff that you've probably heard many times before, you can head over to the Ready for Takeoff podcast at readyfortakeoffpodcast.com, and I'll put a link in the show notes for the episode number 62, where George interviews me for that. So I thought I'd mention that. And
we never get enough of stories about your flying jet.
No, no.
That's all the same story all the time.
I'll
though.
be
It's like
downloading it after
I'm
we
an old
finish here tonight.
person that, like, oh yeah, I've heard him tell this story before. This is only the 10th time he's told me this story, but yet I'm just going to look at him and smile. Okay. Senility is just the beginning. Anything else you guys want to talk about before?
I think Nick had a more exciting or
Oh yeah,
interesting
that's
week
right.
than the rest
Yes.
of us.
Oh,
maybe
it's-
not in a great way, but I think worth spending a few minutes on maybe.
Well, yeah, it's very true. I kind of start with today, actually, because today I went for a cardiac review, which is something I have to have done. You know, when you get into my age, and you know, you haven't got a completely blank sheet on your medical history. They often want to do a particular look at you, so I go for an annual cardiac review, which I have to do a stress ECG where I pound up and down a treadmill with a ECG attached, and I go and see a specialist, and they give me a tick off for another year. But of course, that is in association also with the training we get when we go for our annual safety and equipment procedures training, which all kind of links into the same kind of subject. So when we're doing that SEP training, we're sitting in a classroom, and we get a little session with one of our medical qualified instructors who comes in and reminds us how to do CPR. So we get to play with Resusciani, practice your heart pumps and giving breaths and things, although that's not so much not so important nowadays. They've decided that just the heart massage is what is required. And it was very sad, but a couple of days ago I was pulled out of my house by a neighbor whose husband had collapsed. So she couldn't move her husband. He was lying after he'd come in from a run face down on the floor in their garage, and she found him there. So it was all a bit sad, but she couldn't move him, so I managed to get him on his back, and then I went straight back in my mind into that classroom. All those years of training sort of went, okay, give him a shake, see if you can rouse him. Well, it's pretty obvious he was well out of things. Check his airway, make sure that's open, see if he's breathing, feel for a pulse, but it was pretty obvious that there wasn't much activity or none at all. So and we've got quite a good system here. When I think it's probably exactly the same in the States, when you phone for an ambulance, you actually speak to the operator, and if it's something like that happened to this gentleman, he had collapsed, they stay on the line and they will instruct on how to do CPR. It wasn't necessarily we knew how to do it, but they were saying you should commence CPR. So we started doing CPR, and this is all while we're waiting for the ambulance to arrive. So we worked on this gentleman for myself, my wife, and his wife. Worked to him for about probably 10 minutes until the ambulance arrived. It's pretty tiring. I had, you practice for a few minutes in the classroom, but when you're doing it for real, and you've got to swap quite regularly so that you can do it properly. Otherwise, you get a bit overtired. And eventually, the lady came in with her defib kit, and we're still doing CPR because she's assessing and putting the defib kit on. And when eventually the paddles were stuck on, and she said, "Right, you can stop now, and we'll let the machine do its thing." It says stand clear, and then says assessing, and then it came back and said no shock advised. Recommence CPR. So you start again for about another 3 minutes, and it just carries on kind of doing that cycle where you do 3 minutes more CPR, and then it does another stand clear, assessing, and it didn't advise a shock at all. Now, I was chatting to my specialist today and said there's only one of the 3 cases that the heart can be in when it advises a shock, and which I gather is fibrillation. I'm going to ask Steph to explain these in a minute because I don't really know exactly what they are. There's fibrillation, but if you get PEA, so that's pulseless electrical activity, or the heart shows an asystolic, I think that's the word.
Asystole.
Asystole indication, a straight line, then it won't shock because there's no point, there's nothing to be achieved. So what are those 3 things, Steph?
So there's actually 4. 2 of them you can kind of think of very similarly or together, and I won't get into all the details here because it doesn't have anything to do with aviation, but it is kind of important information. The times when you can shock the heart are actually when there's a disorganized electrical activity, something that's not going to produce a normal contraction of the heart muscle. So something that's disorganized and irregular. So ventricular fibrillation is one of those things where you just have kind of the electrical activity quivering, or ventricular tachycardia, which is it's too fast to actually produce a contraction that's going to pump blood through the heart and perfuse and sustain the person. So in those 2 cases, it's considered disorganized, and you provide a shock to actually stop that activity. So that's what the shock is doing. The shock is not restarting the heart per se, but it's actually delivering something that's going to interrupt the electrical activity that's currently ongoing. Stop that, allow the heart to, its own pacemaker that's within the heart itself, give that a chance to reset, produce a rhythm that's going to perfuse the heart, and then perfuse the body and allow the person to recover from that situation. The other 2 instances, asystole, like Captain Nick mentioned, you basically have that classic flatline picture where you're not having any electrical activity. There's nothing to stop there because it's already stopped. You're not going to restart anything by giving a shock in that case. The other one is pulseless electrical activity. And basically what that means is that you have electrical activity within the heart, something that should be producing a pulse, but for some reason is not. So there's usually other things going on. That's the reason behind why the heart doesn't have, why you're not able to feel a pulse, or the heart's not contracting normally. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that sometimes they'll have you consider. So hypovolemia, hypoxia, different like acidosis, toxins, even lung problems like pneumothorax, tension pneumothorax, trauma. So those are all reasons why you might have normal, or what should be nearly normal, electrical activity in the heart, but you're not feeling a pulse. So even if you have a normal sinus rhythm, but if you don't have a pulse, that's considered pulseless electrical activity. And again, shocking that, in theory, not going to do anything because you don't want to, there's not a disorganized rhythm for you to reset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. So I was right. When I heard that there was no shock advised, my heart sank because I realized that the situation was pretty dire for this poor chap. He actually didn't look in bad shape. There was a little bit of cyanosis around his lips. So I think that's an indication of a low oxygen level, a little bit of blueness
Yeah.
around his lips. But other than that, he still looked pretty healthy. And of course, we kept talking to him because I think even if you appear to be unconscious, you sometimes you can still hear what's going on. But after a while of making those attempts, the full ambulance crew arrived with the big ambulance, and they took over completely. But very sadly, about half an hour later, they told us that he wasn't going to come back. He had expired, which was just tragic for his poor wife. We all felt pretty upset too. But we were, their neighbors, they're nice people, but it's not like it's an immediate effect. But it's interesting that having gone through that, it hasn't really affected me very much, but I do find it on my mind all the time. It's funny, isn't it? Because you do something, you think, oh, okay, that's done. I'll move on with my life, and it's perhaps not as easy as you think sometimes to do that. But there you go.
No, not at all. I think, and I've done it countless times in the hospital, and I can remember a lot of them quite clearly because it really does affect you and it sticks with you, and it's it's the person's life you're dealing with there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of times where you've done everything right and it's still, you can't save that person from whatever is causing their situation in the first place. And you get everything you got, and it sticks with you. It affects you. So, but
yeah,
congratulations to you for, being there and having that training and being able to assist. That means, that makes all the difference.
Well, I thank my job really, because if it hadn't been for the airline training I've received over the 22, 23 years I've been doing it, I wouldn't have been able to summon that. It just came straight back. It's when you're on board an aircraft and you get an in-flight emergency, you just put yourself into that mode, and it's quite easy to slip into that mode and go, right, I've done this before, I know what to do, and off you go. So, I was very pleased to have that skill. And I was just thinking for our audience, if any of you don't think you'd be confident in that situation, or don't have any knowledge at all, then perhaps now would be a great time to go out and find, in the UK, I guess it would be St. John's Ambulance Brigade. They run regular training sessions, but I'm sure every country has an equivalent. And go and learn.
And actually, what I might do is, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'd just say go away and learn a little about it, because it's the sort of thing we all ought to be able to do, I think. You never know who is going to have a problem. This guy was only 3 or 4 years younger than me, and he was a very fit guy, rugby player, and obviously a keen runner. So you never know who is going to be affected.
Exactly. And actually, I'm going to maybe point people back to Pilot Pip's excellent podcast, Plane Safety podcast, episode 35. He actually had me on as a guest, and his wife actually had a similar experience to yours, Nick, and we actually talked quite a bit about AEDs and how to get training for basic CPR and that type of stuff. And we went into in more detail some of the principles of why you would want to have early access to a defibrillator and places where you might find them, especially as it relates to airplanes and airports and that type of thing as well. So
absolutely, yes. Particularly if you're moving along big areas of where the general public are, or it might be just like me. You might just get a neighbor who needs your help.
We don't get that training at all at Acme. Pilots don't. The flight attendants do, but I've never received that training.
Well, we used to, Jeff, before 9/11, and after 9/11, it's been much abbreviated, but we still get a chance to, particularly if we show an interest, and doing a quick practice on the resuscitation kit. And it's nice to know also what the cabin crew are doing down the back, so you have a better understanding of what they're dealing with while they're doing one of these resuscitations, if it happens on board the aircraft. So you might have a little more empathy with the situation they're in. So I think it's good training.
Yeah, it's good training. And it's actually, like you said, it's not particularly difficult training, and they've actually made it a lot easier recently, where they've taken the focus out of doing any type of resuscitation breathing for just, the average bystander. They just want you to do chest compressions at this point. You can take compression only CPR classes. It's pretty basic stuff. And the American Red Cross and the American Heart Association here in the US run training programs, even just for people in the community. Doesn't have to be something work related. So
Yeah, and these defibs are pitching up everywhere. I mean, we've got a few in our village. Unfortunately, we don't have one local to us, or we might have been able to make use of it. But certainly in the village centre, a couple of miles away, and a lot of other places, they're starting to appear on walls and in community centres, that sort of thing. So they're more and more common. It's good that we get to know how to use them.
Yep.
I'm thinking about it now. I have had a little bit of training. I watched the episode of The Office, a sitcom in the United States, and they had an episode where they had one of those resuscitation dummies. And I remember there was something about the rhythm that you do. And let's see here.
Do you know which song they usually reference? Do you have it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And I'm trying to play it, but for some reason it's not playing. Hang on. Hang on. We're going to get it. Let me pull up Audio Hijack to see why. Okay, I got it right here. It's on. And let me go over here and make sure it's on over there as well. And it is. So there must be something else that I'm doing wrong.
Well, Tony wants to know how much AEDs cost. And I think we tried to look this up for Pilot Pip's podcast, and I don't know if I ever came up with a clear number on what they actually cost, but I don't think they're all that expensive because they're pretty common.
Can you hear that?
Yep, I can hear it. So if you're doing CPR, you actually do your chest compressions in time to stay alive, and you'll get about the right beats per minute. So
here you go. There's your metric. Whether you're a mother, staying alive, staying alive.
I'm trying to remember the actor because they did one of these as an advert in the UK. I think it was Vinnie Jones, who was an actor in, I don't know if you've seen the movie, oh golly, Two Smoking Barrels. I'm trying to think. It was something and Two Something and Smoking Barrel. It was a East End London robbery, quite amusing. But he plays a tough guy anyway. So he was doing this, and it was very well made information broadcast. It was great. Two locks and two smoking barrels. One lock, two smoking barrels. Damn, can't. Someone in the chat room was good.
I don't know, but the just real quick, the American Heart Association claims that AEDs vary between $1,500 and $2,000 a piece. So.
And the movie was called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Thanks, guys.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Oh, okay. It's great. Hilarious movie. Gotta see it.
Okay. Excellent. Well, sorry to hear about your experience with that, especially.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
Oops.
No thanks.
Please don't talk yet.
Oh no, I'm on beer. Thanks. That's fine.
Sorry to hear about your experience, but I think that that's worth talking about because we can all learn something, and perhaps we should go out there and learn even more about CPR and how we can revive people if it becomes necessary.
Can happen anywhere. Yep.
All right, it's time for the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
I figured I might as well play it since I played Staying Alive, and I'm sure I'm going to get a copyright violation for that. So bring it on. I love the car, and it loves me. I wish I still knew the lyrics to this song, but I don't remember anything. No, that's not true. I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. We all do. And if you want to become part of the Coffee Fund Cadre segment of the community, you can do so by heading over to the airlinepilotguide.com/coffee and becoming a Coffee Fund Cadre member. Financial donations to help us continue the show. And since the last episode, we have a few people who have done so. Their names, you ask? Manuel Vaquero, Rich McKinney, Jeff Moeller, Richard Adams. They use the classic method of the Coffee Fund. And we also have something via Patreon. You can become a patron of the show. And that's basically setting aside a certain amount per episode And since the last show, we have a new patron at Patreon. His name, Connor Anderson. So thank you very much for becoming a patron of the show.
What a great
And-
name. I like it, Connor. Are we
Is that
related?
somebody that you know? Is it he related to you?
I'll
or
have to
something?
check my family tree.
So thanks again for becoming a patron of the show. If you want to participate in that, you have the financial resources to do so. Please, again, head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. And a shout out to our 3 top tier contributors. We have at the $5 and up per episode level, Christopher Klimick, Nick Herring, Justin Breeze, Trevor Moody, Joe Driver, David Collier, Bill Bates, Ross Gridley, Steve Nass, George Nolly, Ken Hayes, Randall Shepard, David Mulinu, Chris Edwards, Richard Miller, Larry Gregory, Zebulon Dawson, Jonathan Turfbauer, Mike Clark, Liz Piper, Chris and Tanya Weitzel, Justin Williams, Andrew Espig, Stephen Wisniewski, Adrian Meacham, Jim G, and Lee Hayden. And the next level up, the $10 plus per episode, Eduardo Suarez, Stephen Ward, Neville Bounds, Michael Benson, Robert Wolf, Matt Donnermeyer, and Mike Ham. And our top level, $20 plus per episode, we have Lucas Diamond and Asa Armin. He's been with us the longest. I think he started contributing via Patreon from the very beginning, which was about 3 years ago now, in January of 2014, I think, maybe 2015. Anyway, a long time. So thank you, Asa and Lucas and everybody else for being part of the Coffee Fund cadre. Again, your sacrifice and generosity is much appreciated by the crew and everybody in the community.
Stand by for news.
Well, I suppose we should start with the biggest news in aviation in the last week, and that is the terrible, horrific shooting of 5 people, actually more than that, 5 dead, and many others injured at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. And this guy, this nut job named Esteban Santiago, 26, flew in, started in Anchorage, went through Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then finally to Fort Lauderdale via Delta Airlines. And he had checked his pistol, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, in his luggage. I guess it was a specific case just designed for that pistol. And believe it or not, yes, here you can check your weapons in checked baggage. So he went to the baggage claim to claim his gun, and he took it out of the case and started shooting people. And they're still trying to figure out what the motive is. Obviously, he has suffered some psychological issues over the last few years. He spent some time in Afghanistan in the military. I think it was in the Puerto Rican Guard and also in the Alaska National Guard. I'm not sure what outfit he was affiliated with when he was doing his time over in Afghanistan, but or maybe it was Iraq, but it was somewhere overseas where people were shooting and killing people. And so he was basically trained to kill people, and apparently he had exhibited some issues, psychological issues, and he had even walked into an FBI office in Anchorage and was claiming to the agents there that the U.S. government was forcing him to watch ISIS videos, and they didn't take his gun away for some reason and let him go. And it's just a big mess. They're still doing a lot of investigation here to try to figure out what the motive was, if there was one, or if it was just a nutcase.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just
Certainly looks
terrible.
like he had psychological problems. So,
Yeah.
I think, you're not far off. But it doesn't seem like he was being listened to by the authorities either. So, yeah.
Right.
Sound good.
And people are trying to figure out why Fort Lauderdale, because he really didn't have any reason to fly down to Fort Lauderdale, but that he had somehow planned this whole thing. And I don't know why Fort Lauderdale was the airport he thought would be best to wreak this carnage, but that's what happened. And it's just a mess. So our thoughts and prayers go out to those who died and their families and friends, and all of us who are affected by this horrible tragedy. And what do you do? It's like that's what they call a soft target. That's an area of the airport that is not protected by security. And now they are talking about the possibility, and this has not only happened here in the States, but it's happened. What was Belgium? I think that the attack was done outside of security. Several different places where there were soft targets, and they've been talking about doing something about that. But it's
Well, the problem comes, Jeff, that wherever you have your first layer of security, there will always be a large crowd of people waiting to get through that.
Yeah.
And they are vulnerable. So it doesn't matter really where you have your first layer of security. Just outside that, everybody's vulnerable because you can have a weapon at that point. So I don't think there is an easy way of solving this, because
No.
there's always going to be an area where people can get amongst many other people with a firearm, and if they wish to commit mass murder, that's possible. Or they can just go to their local cinema or church.
Yeah. I mean, you can't stop
school.
people from, congregating in large groups for whatever it is that they're going to get together for.
So
And
I don't know if there's going to be anything achieved in the aviation world by putting yet another layer of security. I can't see it myself.
Sure.
Well, I don't know, even in this case, if you had, if it was a secured area of the airport, it's still his baggage. It was still a firearm that he had checked. So you'd have to, the security measure would have to be before that. Okay, you can't fly with any type of firearm, which might be the case in other parts of the world, but it's not the case here. People,
I
I see
have a
people
lot of, we have a lot of
reporting
folks that are
events and
outdoorsmen, hunters, that want to take their firearms with them on a hunting trip from somewhere in Florida to Wyoming or whatever. And
I've flown plenty of weapons internationally, and they're always checked into the hold. I get told what's there, and the weapons and the cartridges are separated. And the cartridges can be in hand luggage, for heaven's sake, as long as they're not too large a number. I'm going, well, there's only a limited amount you can do. And anyway, someone could have walked in from the outside into this unsecure part of the airport and with a gun and just let loose. So
a gun, a bomb, a very large knife, a truck running over people. I mean, it's like, in this case, it just happened to be a firearm, but as you said, there are just some things that you can't protect, and it's just part of the life, the world we live in nowadays, which is a sad thing.
And we talked about this guy clearly was showing some evidence that he was not in his right mind anymore and was disturbed and had maybe the potential to do something like this. But there's been cases where those signs aren't nearly as obvious or as clear, and I don't know where you're never going to be able to protect against all of these things.
No,
it's just not possible.
If anything, I think the breakdown, of course, they're still trying to figure all this out, but I'm wondering if the breakdown here probably was the psychological screening and the fact that they should have noticed something and maybe locked him up or in protective custody or whatever before this ever got to this point. But I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a tough
I mean,
thing.
even that's hard to say.
Anyway, so I thought we'd have to mention that because that was a very big story here. It shut down the airport. I don't know if you watched some of the video of the people just running out on the runways and taxiways and everything else. It was craziness. I've never seen anything like that ever.
And
you fly into there quite regularly, don't you, Jeff?
Pardon me? Oh yeah. I'm in
regular destinations.
Yeah, and I ended up running around taxiways and runways and stuff, but it's usually me and not everybody.
Trying to find your airplane again.
Yeah.
I've lost it. Well, I think there were a fair number of planes that were just stuck in place for several hours too.
Yeah.
Correct. So that was kind of
Yes.
a mess.
Both leaving, waiting for takeoff, and also
And
coming
arriving.
in. It landed,
Yeah.
but not allowed to continue to the concourses. And I'm sure in this case that they were, the 3-hour tarmac rule went out the window, because this is one of those situations that nobody could.
It's an extraordinary circumstance.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd hate to be the people stuck on those airplanes for so long, but
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's there was some craziness. Let's see. Looking at some other things here in the news folder. Could this be it? Could this be the first time that an airplane has actually hit a real drone? Well, we're not sure yet. There is no definitive.
There's no drone.
Yeah,
right?
there's no
Like,
drone. They
We have
haven't
not
come-
found the drone.
Exactly. Let's see. LAM Linhas Aéreas de Mocambique, Boeing 737-700, was flying from Maputo to Tete, Mozambique. I don't know how to pronounce those things. With 80 passengers, 6 crew, it was on final approach to TETE. When the crew heard a loud bang, no abnormal indications followed. The crew, suspecting a bird strike, continued the approach for a safe landing. A post-flight examination revealed a drone had impacted the right side of the radome. The airline confirmed the occurrence. A replacement aircraft was dispatched to this place to perform the return flight. The occurrence aircraft is being repaired. In the region, there are frequently drones weighing around 10 kilograms or 22 pounds. Is that right? 10 kilograms seems like more than 22 pounds.
No,
that's
10
right.
times 2.2.
2.2, yeah.
Operated for a mining survey. Ground witnesses describe those drones are being operated without regard for the aerodrome and aircraft traffic. So now there's, if you read some of the comments in the Aviation Herald article, you'll have several people that are very skeptical. However, I think that this actually may be a case where the airplane did hit a drone, and luckily it didn't. It just did some damage to the radome, but didn't go in an engine or do any other harm. So,
Well, it hit
think
something.
yeah,
And there's
definitely
no
hit
bird
something.
guts. So
Nope, no bird
No.
guts, no feathers,
No blood.
no blood. So, and then somebody was saying in the comments, well, the pitot tubes are right behind where it struck the radome, and why aren't they damaged? Why are they still there? Well, it could be that the impact on the radome was enough to just deflect that craft away from those.
I mean, to me, it looks like whatever hit it was very close to the front.
Yeah.
It wasn't, even though there's damage on the side, as it doesn't necessarily look like it was as far back with the initial impact. So that's probably why it missed everything else.
One of the things that really kind of makes me giggle a little bit is that a lot of these headlines said that a drone hit an airplane, and I'm thinking, no, I think it's the other way around. I think the airplane actually hit the drone, but the drone. I don't think the drone was going quite as fast as the airplane was.
And I don't think that the drone survived this impact quite as well as the plane.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Looking at the pictures of the radome, it does kind of look like there were, where the propellers would be spinning, may have actually, sliced into the soft fiberglass material of the radome. So anyway, we're going to find. Well, hopefully we'll find out. Maybe we'll never hear a thing again about this, but it's a real threat. It's a real risk, and hopefully. Oh, apparently I need some updates on my Surface 3 tablet. Sorry about that. I should probably turn the volume down on this. Okay. Thank you, Microsoft. And moving on from that, this is actually funny.
Yes.
So earlier this week, a Salt Lake City woman walked to her car to pick up her children from school and noticed something unexpected all over her white vehicle. Human feces that apparently fell from the sky. At first I thought, wow, some bird really took a dump on my car, Bethany Boker told KSL. But she soon realized she was dealing with human poop. This is undeniable. So she did what any outraged person would do in 2017. She took a video of the poop and uploaded it to Facebook. It's like they dumped it all the poop out of the airplane and landed on my driveway, she says in the video, scanning her camera over the human waste. It's all poop, human poop. It's on my car. It's splattered everywhere.
Did you watch her video?
Yeah. If you're
She's
queasy,
kind of a dramatic person.
yeah, she is. But I mean, I wouldn't be very happy about this on my car and all over my lawn either.
No.
Although I guess it would be kind of like a fertilizer for your lawn.
I have to ask, was there any paper?
I don't
Just the poop.
know. I'm not sure.
Well,
You'll
I'm
have to
going to
watch the
talk about
video.
this and just, but finish reading the thing and then I'll
Okay. Making things worse, Boker says that this isn't the first time an airplane has dumped crap on her property. It also happened several years ago, she told the news outlet KSL. But this is the worst I've ever had it, she said. I'm tired of it. It just makes me sick. She reached out to the FAA, who released the following statement. The FAA periodically receives reports of blue ice or frozen wastewater falling on a house. If the person can tell us exactly when and where it happened, we can try to run radar replays to see if an aircraft flew overhead around that time. We don't provide any advice on how to clean up blue ice. According to her Facebook page, local authorities did arrive at her house yesterday afternoon, whenever this was, January 5th, to clean up the poop. And she said, there's at least some silver lining for Boker. She said, I'm just glad I wasn't outside when it happened. So, yes, Steph, now you have the floor.
So, I mean, yes, it looks rather disgusting, but, the FAA is talking about blue ice. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but basically that's where, if there's not a proper seal where you would normally empty the lavatory fluids, thank you. Some of that fluid can accumulate outside the plane and it freezes where it's cold and it's blue. And if it falls off the aircraft, it comes down and it's blue ice and it makes little chunks of blue ice. That is not what is all over this lady's yard and house and car. It looks like bird poop, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, I think at least on her car it does.
Yeah.
So it was a little harder to tell on her driveway. But I don't know.
I guess if you were there and you could actually smell it, that would probably be the telltale sign, whether this was bird poop or human poop. But
now she does live in a town that is directly south of the airport in Salt Lake City. So she's correct that airplanes are flying over her house all the time. But it just seems a little bit strange and suspicious that.
I would have expected that it would have had some other consistency and some blue fluid.
There should be some other things mixed in with it.
Are they saying that wastewater of an aircraft's blue? I don't understand that at all. Wastewater out of an aircraft just comes from the sinks. So it'll be the color of whatever's gone down the sinks.
Well, see, your the systems and some of the old narrow bodies like iFly, they actually put this stuff that is separate from the stuff that comes through the sink. It's the stuff that's actually in the lavatory itself. And it is a very bright, dark or blue color.
Bright dark. That's an interesting color shade.
Vibrant blue. How about that?
Deep and bright. I guess not dark. Deep.
And it actually comes from. You're not telling me you actually dump. The contents of the toilets.
Well, we do into the lavatory service vehicles, but not when we're flying over.
It goes into a waste tank in the back of the aircraft. Yes. So the only thing that comes out of the aircraft is sink stuff. Yeah.
That's the only stuff that's supposed to come out. Yes.
And potable water goes into the sinks. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
That was a cue, Jeff. You've got to press that damn button now.
Potable.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. I'm trying to find it. It was buried several.
You didn't look like you're trying really hard.
You'll have to give me a sign next time.
The potable water sign. Yes, I'll have to.
Potable.
Here's my other thought too. Do you all know what the state bird of Utah is?
The shite hawk,
the large pooper.
Well,
potable.
It's
potable.
Sorry.
It's the common seagull, believe it or not. And there are a lot of them there, and they do poop a lot.
So you're thinking I can sense the skepticism in.
Do you sense my skepticism just a little bit about this one? I mean,
maybe I'll have to look at that video again and take a closer look.
Look at the car.
Here's the technical thing about dropping ice off airplanes. It does happen occasionally, and I tell you why. The drain hole that comes out of the bottom of the aircraft, where the sink, the grey water we call it, comes out the back of the airplane and dribbles away, is heated to stop it forming into ice. Now, if that heater fails, the water can actually form into a fairly large block of ice, which will eventually fall off the airplane. I know Acme Red dropped a fairly large block of ice through a German lady's garage roof. Whether it hit her Mercedes or not, I can't remember. But that was one. And on the approach to Narita Airport in Tokyo, you have to put your gear down by 14 miles on the approach that's over the ocean to shake off any lumps of ice, because they once had a block of ice that fell off when somebody put their gear down. And it was just the jolting of the gear down that shook it free. And I think that might have hit somebody's house, or might have even hit somebody. So now there is actually a regulation requiring you to put your gear down before you coast in, if you're making an approach on the southerly runways at Narita, just for this very reason.
Very interesting.
But it doesn't have any poop in it.
Well, and this lady's just been especially unlucky. It's happened more than once to her.
So maybe she has some kind of psychological problem too.
Or there's someone else out there who doesn't like her very much. I'm not talking about anyone in the sky. Anyway.
Yeah. Weird. Okay. Well, I thought it would just be fun to talk about poop falling from the sky. So I decided to throw that one in the news folder.
I love it.
This one is really interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at this, but this was via Slack, the APG Slack group. If you want to join that, contact Hillel, HI11E1, via Twitter, and he can set you up to join the perpetual chat room over there. And this is from a person who calls himself or herself Hamish T. Haggis. Is that the way you'd read that? Hamish.
Yes,
It sounds like something in Scotland.
Hamish is
Hamish?
used rather than Hamish.
And
Hamish.
Hamish T. Haggis? Haggis?
Haggis. Haggis is the food, the pudding.
Okay. The thing that was throwing me off was that T in the middle there. So
yes, I'm not quite sure.
But it's not like
okay.
Hamish the something, but no.
Hamish the Haggis.
Whatever this is. This person writes, did you guys see this yet? The article has very limited info, but apparently they lost the whole panel in IMC. And then he sent the link to an article in ATC Memes, which is usually a funny site that they do all kinds of little skits and that kind of thing. But this is serious. On December 16th, 2016, so just last month, a citation on an IFR flight plan was attempting an instrument approach into Houston Hobby Airport, HOU. The weather around the entire Houston area was IFR. The pilot lost all instrumentation in the cockpit and was having trouble maintaining straight and level flight. Now, this is the part of the article I'm going, well, what do they mean that he lost all instrumentation? But apparently he lost several critical pieces of navigation equipment, including the compass or the compass system. After looking at all the local airports around the Houston area, it was determined the best chance the pilot had at making a successful landing was at Galveston, Texas, at Gulf Lima Sierra. The weather at Galveston was marginal VFR. Natalie Hart was working the aircraft and issued the pilot of November 242 Bravo Sierra no gyro vectors for about 30 miles towards the GLS airport. She directed him towards the airport and descended the aircraft to the lowest altitude she could vector the pilot at. The pilot stated that they were familiar with the Galveston area and started to descend below the minimum vectoring altitude on his own. Natalie then issued the pilot a low altitude alert. The pilot stated that he wanted to go VFR, and she continued to give him guidance to the Galveston airport. And anyway, let's listen to some of the ATC audio, which I've clipped here for us to listen to. It's very interesting. I think it's worth listening to. Well, I can hardly hear that. Can you?
Yeah, it's very quiet.
Okay, let me see if I can do something to bump that up. Bump it up. Put my other earbud in and open up this program. Dun, 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 dun. Well, it's about as high. Here, this might help.
I just give you a heads up. Two Bravo's here. I talked to Galveston. He said it comes in waves, but it looks like he's looking good. Right now they got 3 miles, but he says it goes up to 6 miles. He has nothing.
Okay. So what was it last part, Frank?
But he has no navigation.
Okay. That's still not loud enough. Can you guys hear it at all?
Just barely.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
just about make it out.
what I'm going to do here is I can play it through something else.
Try playing it through a loudspeaker.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sure. Oh, I know what I can do.
Turn it up to 11.
So let's go to 11.
Here, this will be just playing with volume here.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't even sound like he didn't even have a compass.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Is that louder?
Meh.
No.
Not really. Okay.
Still, but it's sort of hearable.
I can hear it, but it's
I
very
know I
quiet.
can hear it too, but it needs to be louder. Oh, I know why. Okay, try this. I haven't played it yet.
Two Bravo's here.
Two Bravo's here. I talked to Galveston. He said it comes in waves, but it looks like he's looking good. Right now they got 3 miles, but he says it goes up to 6 miles. He has nothing.
Okay. So what was it last part, Frank?
But he has no navigation.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't even sound like he didn't even have a compass.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Number 242 Bravo Sierra, Houston approach. Good afternoon. The Hobby altimeter is 2986.
It's still too soft. Why? It's like it's not playing through the right.
Yeah, it is soft, but I've already worked out that he's probably got attitude and altitude. It's just all he seems to be missing is navigation and compass.
Right. So he's going to get no gyro vectors.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering what the drama's about.
Ah,
Sorry.
you're right. Let's move on to the best part of the show.
Well, he obviously thought it was a drama, so that makes it a story.
It was very dramatic. It's just peeing me off. I can't hear it. It's like not playing in the right place for some reason. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to try one last thing. Just hang in there. Everybody can take a break if they want. Citation. There it is. And then I'm going to drag it over here into the soundboard. See if that works. And it's downloading, and can't hear anything.
There's a G. I just give you a heads up.
That's really, really faint in there
Two
too.
Bravo's here. I talked to Galveston. He said it.
Well, we need to tell these people over there to speak up.
Yeah. Next time, could you be a little bit louder?
Yeah.
Me?
Oh, there we go. That's going to be good. Okay. Here we go.
Me?
There's a G. I just give you a heads up.
Two Bravo's here.
Two Bravo's here. I talked to Galveston. He said it comes in waves, but it looks like he's looking good. Right now they got 3 miles, but he says it goes up to 6 miles. He has nothing.
Okay. So what was it last part, Frank?
But he has no navigation.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't even sound like he didn't even have a compass.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
But-
Well, that beep you made when it started, you said, "Oh, that's good." That was really loud, and then when he actually played it, it went quiet again.
Like he's,
I don't know what's going on here.
Me?
There's a G. I just give you a heads up.
Two Bravo's
Brilliant.
here.
Two Bravo's here. I talked to Galveston. He said it comes in waves, but it looks like he's looking good. Right now they got 3 miles, but he says it goes up to 6 miles. He has nothing.
Okay. So what was it? Last part, Frank?
But he has no navigation.
Yeah,
right. But I don't even sound like he didn't even have a compass.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
But,
Number 242 Bravo Sierra, Houston approach. Good afternoon. The hobby altimeter is 2986. I'm aware of your situation, and I'll have a turn for you here in just a moment.
242 Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, turn left, and I'll call your stop.
Left turn, you'll call me stop. I was in the Army, not the Marines, but that's okay.
Roger. Number 2 Bravo Sierra, stop turn.
Stop turn, 2 Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, turn left.
Bravo Sierra, left turn.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, Galveston says the conditions are better to the south, so we're going to set you up from the south side of the field. And see if we can get you lower here shortly.
2 Bravo Sierra. Continue left turn, Bravo Sierra.
Yep, affirmative, and I'll call your stop.
Okay, just want to make sure I didn't miss a call.
Nope, you're doing fine. Number 2 Bravo Sierra, stop turn.
Stop turn, Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, I'm going to just turn you a little bit more to the left. Turn left now.
Left turn, 242 Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, stop turn.
242, stop turn.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, just for your planning purposes, in about 6 miles, I'm going to descend you once we get you clear of some antennas, set you up for a left base from the south, and try and get a visual once we get closer.
Okay, about 6 miles descending. Can you give me an altitude that you're going to descend me to initially?
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, for now, maintain 3,000 and expect 2,000 in about 8 miles or so.
Okay, for now, 3,000, expect 2,000 in about 8 miles, 242 Bravo Sierra.
Yep, and probably once we get in a little bit closer, about 5 miles out, probably gets down to 1,700 even.
Bravo Sierra.
Number 242 Bravo Sierra, descend and maintain 1,700.
Vacating 3,000 for 1,700, 242 Bravo Sierra.
With your information only, Galveston does have the runway 14 sequence flashers turned all the way up, but they are advertising runway 18. So just be advised, just so that if you can look out there and see it, it's going to be about 11 o'clock and 8 miles or so if you pick it up. And I'll have a squared turn up here for you in about 3 miles or so.
I'm starting to come VMC. If I get a little bit lower, I think I can maybe make a left turn and still pick it out.
Does it look better to the north of your position right now?
Looks better towards the east, towards Galveston Airport.
Okay, number 2 Bravo Sierra, turn left.
2 Bravo Sierra, I'm kind of familiar with this area here.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, do you want to continue on that heading and see if you can see it once you get in? Just make sure you're maintaining 1,700.
I'm VMC at this point. I know where the airport's at. I'm going to look for it.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, Roger, did you want me to continue vectoring you?
Yeah, stay with me for a minute if you don't mind.
No, November 2 Bravo Sierra, low altitude alert. Check your altitude immediately. Maintain 1,700 unless you want to go VFR.
I'll go VFR.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, understand you are canceling your IFR. It is received. You can maintain VFR.
242 Bravo Sierra.
November 2 Bravo Sierra, just maintain VFR, and the airport's at about 2 o'clock and 5 miles to you now.
242 Bravo Sierra.
November 2 Bravo Sierra, the airport's just ahead to your right, 2:30 to 3 o'clock, and about 4¼ miles.
242 Bravo Sierra, searching.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, low altitude alert. Check your altitude.
2 Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, airport's now 1 o'clock and 3½ miles.
242 Bravo Sierra, I got the airport in sight.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, and a right base to runway 18, pattern altitude at your discretion.
242 Bravo Sierra.
Number 2 Bravo Sierra, it looks like you can have runway 14 as well. Just check in with the tower, 120.57, 2057. Take care.
2057.
Galveston, San Jack, low altitude alert, TBS.
2 Bravo here, just landed, that's it.
Thank you. My name's
San Jack Galveston.
Hey, Jack.
The citation was very appreciated.
Oh, thank you. We'll let everyone know.
Yeah, he was very emotional about it. He said, nice job.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks. This is Trigger. Daddy, help you?
Hi, Dottie. Ray Murphy. I was a captain on 242 Bravo Sierra. Is there a supervisor I can talk to?
Oh, yes, sir. This is she.
Hey, Dottie. It's Ray Murphy again. And I just wanted to tell you guys, I know your job, like ours, sometimes we hear a lot of squawks and complaints, but I just wanted to pass on, number one, my thanks, but my praise. Everybody did a great job, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you calling, sir, and we're glad we can help you get on the ground safely. That was amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm sitting next door to the mom right now, and we just put all the kids in a taxi, and they're going to somebody's house here in Galveston, but she and I are waiting for a ride, but she's expressed her gratitude several times also, and she was just on the phone with her husband, so I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm glad we can be here to help you. So have a good, safe holiday, and I'll pass it along to everybody's working.
Okay. So I just thought it was kind of cool that we actually hear, a lot of times we hear the air traffic control communications, but then you don't hear anything else afterwards. And to have a recording of the guy actually calling the air traffic control facility and thanking them for their great work and getting them out of trouble is it's kind of cool. So I thought everybody would enjoy that.
Absolutely, and it was very nice of the bloke to pass his thanks on.
Yeah, I could tell there was
Nice to
still
see.
a hint of
Yeah.
emotion in his voice. That he was sounding all cool on the radio, which is very important. But,
Well, but sometimes some of the you start to reflect back on stuff like that, even though you're feeling confident and in control. You're cool, calm, and collected about it at the time. It may be something that affects you a little bit more after the fact. So,
I'll put a link to this in the show note. They have a link to the YouTube video, and on the YouTube video, it's really cool because they show the actual radar screen, and you can see his data, the flag, and you can see his little, his airplane. Well, not his airplane, but the data and the little, whatever you call that, target, moving on the screen. And the couple of times that she called out the low altitude alert, 1,700 feet, I believe it was like he was at 500, 400, 500, 600 feet. So he was like doing, what do we call that? Scud running, trying to see something that he recognized. And, it was pretty dangerous for him to be doing that. So anyhow, I don't know why he couldn't have done a no gyro ILS approach or something, though. Maybe, I guess all that equipment was not working either. So
I don't know exactly what he had working and what he didn't have working.
Right.
It's hard to know from that.
Well, he knew which way was north and east, so
That's
I'm
true.
assuming he actually had a compass.
Yeah, I guess, or maybe it's just his situational awareness, familiarity of where he was.
Could have been, or could have been just his standby compass, because you can't really use that in a turn because it sticks.
Right. That could be. I find it kind of highly improbable that he lost even his standby instrumentation. But anyway, don't mean to Monday morning quarterback the guy. But anyway, that was interesting. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, now that we've finally made it through that, let's try to get this thing back on track and get to the best part of the show, which of course is your feedback, and that includes Plain Tales as well.
Captain, incoming message.
Alrighty. So looking at the 254 folder, let's start off with this one from Jonathan, who is really monitoring your logbook. Hi, Captain Jeff, Captain Rick, Dr. Steph, and Miami Rick. Oops. Hi, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, and Miami Rick. We miss you, man. And hi to all the APG community. A few episodes ago, you talked about logging hours. I know you, Jeff, Nick, and Rick, your hours are automatically added to your logbook. So my questions are maybe more for Dr. Steph, since she flies general aviation. After getting your private pilot license, besides you, who is really monitoring your logbook? Because if no one else, it would be very easy to add hours that you never flew, and then go to an airline, say that you had like 1,500 plus hours, but in reality, you only have about 500 hours pilot and command. I know that for your own safety, it would be better not to cheat those hours, but for someone that would like to get a shortcut, wouldn't be that hard. I'm not saying that's what I'm doing, au contraire, but I just noticed that there was some little flaws in the system. Thanks for your great work, APG team. We love you. Tailwinds, but not in landings, and keep the blue side up. Take care. This is Jonathan from Canada. So, Steph, what do you say about that?
No one is monitoring what I write in my logbook is the answer to that question other than me. But I will say that, if you're working towards different ratings and things like that, there are certain things that you have to do and put in there, and some things, especially for your, once you pass your private pilot certificate, for your instrument rating, for your multi-engine stuff, for your commercial stuff, you're going to have an instructor with you for some of those items that you have to check off in order to qualify for those ratings and licenses. So some of that will be notated in your logbook there. But yeah, especially when you're working on like your instrument rating, there's a requirement for a significant number of simulated or actual hours of instrument time. And you can do that simulated stuff with a safety pilot. So it's between you and them to make sure that you actually do that and get it logged in there. Once you're past all of those ratings and you're just working towards your 1,500 hours, it's on you to be honest and keep an honest log about it. I really believe that if you are an unscrupulous type of person and you're padding your logbook there, it's going to be very obvious when you go to apply for different ratings or your ATP or at an airline. Maybe not, but I think it definitely will be very obvious to whoever you're trying to sneak that one past. And even if it's not, then you're just really doing yourself a disservice. And I don't know how you can be happy or content with what you've kind of pulled the wool over people's eyes over. So that's the short answer to that question.
I can tell you one thing one thing for sure. If you end up lying or fudging figures or, lying about your criminal record or anything else, when you get hired by especially a major airline, if they find out, and they usually do, and you don't have any, good reason for giving them false information, you are definitely fired.
Well, there's never really a good reason for giving false information. So pretty much consider that the same as you're going to be fired from that job. And that's going to stick with you much more than those fake hours that you've logged in your logbook.
Oh, for sure. And it's a small industry. So you'd be amazed how quickly the word gets around that a particular individual has done something like this. And the chance of you getting picked up by another airline are pretty damn remote.
Yep.
So bottom line,
of course, there is a way to check, because the Civil Aviation Authority or whatever country you're in can quite easily just go to the aircraft logs for the aircraft you claim to have flown in on the date and the hours, and see if you were there and see whether you signed the aircraft in and out. So it's quite easy for someone who's suspicious to go back and make a check, and they only need to check a few flights before they realize that you're lying, and then bang.
Yeah, that might be a little bit trickier here in the U.S., especially for private aircraft, in terms of signing in and out. Say, if you were building hours and you had an agreement with a friend to fly their plane, and we're paying them directly for that, that might be a little bit tricky to track and trace.
Still sign an aircraft logbook of some kind as well as a personal logbook. Doesn't the aircraft have a logbook you would need to?
No.
Register a flight in? Who keeps track of all the hours? And when,
if you're renting from a flight school or something along those lines, yeah, that's going to be recorded and kept track of. But there's been several times where I've basically borrowed a friend's plane. I don't sign anything.
Okay. All right.
Just go out and fly them 72. Yep, complete honor system. So it's definitely possible to pad your logbook, but don't do that.
Yeah, just don't. No. But you're right. He does point out the fact that there is a little bit of a weakness in the system, especially over here. It's possible to do, but it's just not worth doing.
That's right.
Let's see. Moving on. Jack says, whilst listening to episode 233, I can tell Jack is from the UK because I love it. Whilst listening. That's great. You covered toga switches. Captain Nick thought that the Airbus had gotten the go-around area correct, as no buttons were needed to be pressed just to advance the throttles. However, I was recently talking to an EasyJet first officer flying the 319 in UK, and he said that he was once on short final for the runway and the conditions were very gusty, just like many airports in the UK. A gust of wind blew across the runway. This instinctively, because he was a former Boeing pilot, made him advance the throttles to gain power to correct for centerline, but subconsciously advanced the throttles too far, and an automatic go-around was initiated. He hit the runway on his mains and bounced into a climb. This can be applied at a small regional airport called Leeds Bradford Airport, e.g. November Mike. This airport is an old RAF base and is situated on top of a 700-foot hill and is the tallest hill in the immediate vicinity. This in turn causes very windy conditions with a lot of gusts, generally 30 to 40 knots plus, almost perpendicular to the runway. This airport defeats nearly every Airbus aircraft on windy days because they experience the same issues as the EasyJet first officer. Below is the attached link of a YouTube video which shows some of the extreme conditions of Echo Golf November Mike. And so I don't know anything about the Airbus throttles and go around system. So what do you say, Captain Nick?
Well, the go around because the Airbus throttles don't move unless you're manually flying using the thrust, which a lot of people do when they're in gusty conditions, because sometimes it's easier to anticipate what power you need and better than the auto thrust system will do. But if this guy had the auto thrust system in, the throttles won't move. They're just in a gate, and the auto thrust will just change the thruster and to maintain the appropriate speed. So if this guy moves the throttles out of the gate, if he moves them far enough, then he will get them into the go-around position, the toga position, and the aircraft will start to indicate, and the engines will go into toga mode, and he'll need to continue then and do a go-around. Now, I'm not going to accept that just because he was a former Boeing pilot, that it was easy for him to do. I'm sorry, if you're qualified on an aircraft type, you need to learn how to fly that particular aircraft. You can't afford to have a pilot that drops back into old habits, particularly if they're from a completely different type of aircraft. Now, it might be a reason for him doing, but it's certainly not an excuse. So, you fly the airplane, you're in old sport. You don't allow yourself to drift into old habits because they can be very dangerous. So from that point of view, if you're flying an Airbus, you do it one of two ways. You either take the auto thrust out and use the throttles in a completely normal manner, as if they were completely manual throttles, control the speed yourself, or you let the aircraft do it.
Okay.
With regards, Airbus is doing more go-arounds than Boeing's. Well, I don't know about that because...
Where's your stat?
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to leave that one in the air, as it were, because I think all aircraft nowadays have pretty sophisticated wind shear systems, and if there is wind shear ahead on windy days, you'll probably find that the Boeing system will be just as sensitive as the Airbus system, and it won't be Airbuses only that are doing go-arounds, because most of the go-arounds on a windy day are caused because you get a wind shear go-around warning, and you're obliged to do a go-around if you get one of those. Right. And Boeings have that just as much as Airbus aircraft do. So,
and even McDonnell Douglas's.
There you go.
Just to clarify, so if you're in manual operation of the throttles, even if you put the power way up, it's not going to automatically go into a go-around mode, right?
Actually, if you hit the fire end stops, yes, it will. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'd have to really have a throttle in there for that to happen.
Yeah, but you have to go right to the far end, and that would be pretty unusual, because think about it, in approach power settings, your throttles are way back at the back of the quadrant.
Right.
Even if you're putting judicious amounts of power in, there's no way you're going to push the levers like 7 inches forwards all the way to the front stops just to cope with a speed loss, because normally at approach power setting, you're only a half an inch, say, from the back of the throttle quadrant. So that would be extremely unusual, and it would be a gross, probably mishandling of engines if you felt you had got into such a situation that you needed to go to full power, then you're probably going to want to do a go around anyway, because if it's that severe that you need to get the engines from approach power setting all the way up to toga, then it's probably best to throw that approach away and try again if you're that unstable.
I was going to say, yeah, if you have that much throttle in, then you should not be attempting a landing at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for the clarification, and helped us all learn a little bit more about the Airbus auto throttle system.
And I'm guessing Jack's a Boeing man.
I don't know. Jack, are you a Boeing man?
Well, he'll tell us.
He's not
undoubtedly.
I'm sure he'll get right back to us with some more
If you're in
feedback.
the chat room?
Get back to us, Jack.
It doesn't count if you're not in the chat room.
Yeah, I don't know if he's in the chat room or not.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, so hey, here's a question specifically for Nick. This is from Chris Armitage. So he just discovered the podcast last week. That was mid-December, I think.
What? We're already answering his feedback?
Yeah, no, not
this is
unusual.
Unusual, Chris.
Yes.
So don't expect this. No, I'm just kidding. Don't get too used to it.
Yeah, as an aviation addict, I'd like to say thank you for providing me with my daily fix. I'm starting from the first APG episode, currently on number 32. I have a question for Nick. What was the range and power like on the RAF SPAY-powered Phantom as opposed to the J79-powered Phantom? I know the RAF used the Rolls-Royce SPAY turbofan as opposed to the J79 being more efficient. I'd guess the range was better. Thank you again for all of you for the regular fix. And this again is from Chris from U42. Whatever that is, that's an airport, isn't it? Uniform 42, and a single engine land VFR Skyhawk driver.
All right.
So, Nick, help us with this. So, all the F4s didn't have the same engine then.
Well, the RF ones did, and the American ones did, but they were different.
Oh, okay.
So you guys had General Electrics, and the RAF ones had Rolls-Royce Spays. So they were different. The Spay was a much wider engine. It was an airliner engine modified for military use, had a big fan, so it was much more of a fan than the pure jet, which the J79 that the American F4s had. So there was a difference. The intakes in the RAF Phantoms had to be bigger to accommodate the larger engine and the higher airflow, but that became a disadvantage at high supersonic speeds because you're getting so much air down the intake at high supersonic speeds that it becomes then a problem. You get intake damming, and it can create a lot of drag. So the aircraft wasn't quite as fast high supersonics, but I mean, it actually had more thrust. The military thrust for the Spay was about 12,250 pounds. For the J79, it was only 11,900-ish. In max reheat, the Spay produced 20,500 pounds, whereas the J79 only 17,900-ish. So it was a more powerful engine. The two aircraft, the American version was a little lighter, probably about 2,000 pounds lighter. The F4 Ks and Ms, the Ks were a little lighter than the Ms, but they were around 21 tons at max takeoff weight. And combat weight, well, that's about 47,000 pounds. At combat weight, about 41,500 pounds. So I'm trying to compare the performance figures that I could dig out, because I did actually put a plea out to my old F4 mates to see who had managed to hold on to some manuals. I never actually managed to get hold of a maximum range, but of course, it really depended on the fit you were in and what weapons you were carrying. So it really is a very movable feast. In theory, the RAF F4s with their good fuel consumption Spays had a longer range than the pure jets of the F4Js. But again, once you start hanging stores on, everything changes, so you can end up with so much drag that it would give you less range, or little drag, it would give you a lot more range. Let me see. Supersonic speeds. In theory, the Space could get the aircraft to Mach 2.27. Never saw it there anywhere near there myself. About Mach 1.6, 1.7 was the fastest I ever got one. The F4Js were probably better at the high Mach numbers. And time to height, well, this is probably more realistic. The RAF F4s could get to 40,000 feet in 1.84 minutes. The American ones, 2.34 minutes. So considerably longer, which probably is account for the fact of the reheated thrust that the Spade produced. So it was an interesting question, but not one that is easily answered, I'm afraid, because it's so much of it depends upon what you were carrying as to what the range were. But yes, the Spades were supposed to be better at fuel consumption, so they would have had a longer range.
What is the reason why they chose the Rolls-Royce? Just to support the country, or
Yep.
Was there some other
Nope.
reason?
There was no good reason
Okay.
for it at all, because it made the aircraft very expensive. McDonnell Douglas had to completely redesign the fuselage to shoehorn the Spey in. The nice slim area rule effect that the American F4s have was lost because we had a big fat fuselage, which made the aircraft less efficient supersonic speeds. So it was it was really just because we'd cancelled British aircraft and bought this American aircraft, and the Labour government that was in power at the time decided that they wanted to have something in it that was British, so they were going to stick British engines in it.
So a little bit of politics.
Isn't there always a little bit of politics involved?
Don't forget, this was it was the cancelling of the TSR-2, the subsequent ordering of F-111s and subsequent cancelling at great expense of those that led us to get the F4 Phantom. From my point of view, great, because I got to fly it.
Mm-hmm.
But from a country's point of view, talk about waste of money. You build a fabulous supersonic low-level fighter bomber, the TSR-2, and then you scrap it before you even start building, put it into production. You order another aircraft and then scrap that, and then buy a third one. So, damn it.
Well, I'm just glad there's other countries in the world that are good at wasting money and resources.
Not just us.
Makes us feel a little bit better.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could help.
and real quick too, I was trying to. I was thinking that U-42 was also in Utah, since we were talking about Utah earlier, and it is. It's the South Valley Regional Airport, which is very close to that lady's house that we were talking about in the news earlier. So,
I wonder if Chris has got any blue
Chris.
poop.
Yeah,
Chris, fess up.
Yeah.
Oh, perhaps Chris is the pooper.
He could be the masked pooper.
Yeah,
from the 172, the waste compartment. Oh wait, just kidding.
Oh man,
we don't have those on the Skyhawk.
We have fiscal waste and human waste all together in one.
What color is fiscal waste?
Green here, anyway.
Oh, okay. Hey, Stephen, remember Stephen Ivy? I know Captain Nick has met him. I have. I'm not sure. Dr. Steph, have you met Stephen?
Stephen told me all about Blue Water.
Did he?
Doesn't he work at a power station?
Yeah, he does work. Yeah.
Stephen, and he used to have a lovely little Cessna 150. And now he told me all about Blue Water because he's a Blue Water engineer or something.
Something like that. Yeah, he's a very interesting guy. He's been to, I think, just about every Atlanta meetup that we've had. And so anyway,
did I meet you? If I did, I'm so
I don't
sorry.
think you have.
I apologize
if
I
I'm
did.
Thinking about it, I don't think you have, Dr. Steph. You would have remembered, Steve. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I would hope. And if I did meet you and I've forgotten, my sincerest apologies, and we'll meet again.
Well, he sent us some audio feedback, so let's have a listen.
Merry Christmas, APG crew, or Happy New Year's if it's after New Year's when this is getting played. Stephen Ivy from West Georgia. Going to leave you all a little bit of feedback on what's been going on with me the past couple months. I finally got done working 6 days a week, which is great, which means I have more time to fly and work on my commercial rating. I've also have a very sad situation. I sold my Cessna 150 I've owned for about the past year and a half. It was did a lot of time in that airplane, doing long cross countries at a very, very fast pace of 80 knots across the ground. But luckily, though, I've managed to acquire another aircraft. I got a Mooney 1962 model 20C, which is a great airplane so far from what I've flown with it and heard about it. But what I didn't know until I went over to write the people a deposit on it was that it was owned by Mr. Pat Epps. And for those of you that don't know who Pat Epps is, he is the gentleman that owns one of the fixed base operators at Peachtree DeKalb Airport in Atlanta. We did a meetup there a couple of months back. But Mr. Epps has owned the plane since the 2000s, and really great piece of history, just that man alone. Mr. Epps has been a part of Atlanta Aviation for about his whole life. He's also done some pretty amazing things throughout the world for aviation, and also the only person I know that does aerobatics in a F-33 Bonanza, which is a sight to see if you ever get to catch the air show at PDK. But I've attached a video that kind of covers a brief history of Mr. Epps and his family and what they've done for aviation. But anyway, hope everybody's doing well and had a great holiday. And we'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. He also sent a follow-up piece of feedback email that had some pictures of this beautiful Mooney 20C. It's
yeah,
really
but they sold them a pup, Jeff. Look, they put the fin on backwards.
I know. Well, they did some cost cutting, and they had some rejects that they put the tail on backwards, and so I think that he saved a little money.
I mean, if it weren't for that, it's a lovely looking airplane. And there's a stick out the front of the nose wheel that's going to be a big problem when he gets airborne. What happens to that?
When he tries to taxi, I think.
Yeah, it's going to.
Actually, people have taken off with that thing like that.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Hey, was Stephen at the Toccoa meetup? Did he?
No, he wasn't.
Okay. Because that's the only place I think I would have.
Wait,
was he?
He was at the meetup where we were at that old-fashioned 45s restaurant.
Peachtree DeKalb Airport, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been him a couple of times on my own because he's taken me out for a beer a couple of times. He's got an amazing hybrid car that's all electric and just like an Airbus. Very clever.
Nice. Wait, the Airbus is all electric?
No, I'm only joking. Oh, it's very fancy.
Yeah, I don't think Stephen was at the Toccoa flying.
I think I would have remembered.
Yeah, you would have remembered.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, Stephen, I'm coming to Atlanta again towards the end of this month. So we need to try and get together again. I know I'm going to try and meet Jeff, and we'll try and get something organized. But I'm out there on the 20th and the 21st, so that'd be very cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get a bunch of people together when you're next.
That'd be super.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of super. It's now time for this week's installment of Plain Tales.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. Operation Jonathan. Britain's rule in Uganda came to an end in 1962. What had been a protectorate was now a republic. The country suffered a turbulent time under the leadership of Milton Obote, but now, after a military coup, Idi Amin ruled. His time in power was characterized by human rights abuses, political repression, ethnic persecution, extrajudicial killings, nepotism, corruption, and gross economic mismanagement. The number killed as a result of his regime is estimated to range from 100 to 500,000 people. Amin's behavior became increasingly bizarre. He bestowed on himself the titles His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji Dr. Idi Amin Dada, Victorious Cross, DSO MC both unearned, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the sea, and conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular. In addition to his officially stated claim of being the uncrowned King of Scotland, he also conferred on himself a doctorate of law and wore mounds of gold braid and medals, earning himself the Time magazine's accolade of killer and clown, big-hearted buffoon and strutting martinet. His political leanings became increasingly left-wing, and he formed close ties with Gaddafi of Libya and the Soviet Union. He also became an outspoken critic of Israel. The date was the 27th of June, 1976, and an Air France A300, Flight 139, took off from Tel Aviv, its destination, Paris. En route, the aircraft made a planned stop at Athens, where 38 passengers disembarked and a further 56 boarded for the final leg to Paris. Unbeknown to Captain Michel Bécos, 4 of his new passengers were terrorists. 2 were Palestinian Arabs, members of the PFLP, and 2 were West Germans, posing as South Africans and members of Revolutionaire Zelen. They had flown in from Bahrain on a Singapore flight, where corrupt baggage handlers had ensured that weapons and grenades were smuggled into their hand luggage undetected. Waiting patiently in the transit lounge at Athens, a notoriously lax airport, there had been no further security checks to prevent them from taking their deadly load onto the Air France jet. Soon after takeoff, Captain Bécos turned off the seatbelt lights, and the hijackers attacked. Screams were heard, and thinking there might be a fire in the cabin, the flight engineer opened the flight deck door to find himself face to face with an armed man. The hijacker quickly had his gun at the captain's head, and from then on the terrorists had command of the aircraft. This was the very first hijack in Air France's history. The crew were ordered to fly the aircraft to Libya using the call sign Haifa 1. Whilst in the cabin, the passengers were subdued, with anyone resisting being pistol whipped. One Frenchman was knocked to the floor and severely beaten. Passports and papers were confiscated and examined. A dual-national US-Israeli Air Force officer chewed his ID to pulp just before he was searched, and he escaped detection. Landing in the sweltering heat of Benghazi airport, the hijackers negotiated with the Libyan authorities for fuel. During the long hot wait, a British-born Israeli, Patricia Martel, cut herself so that she could feign a miscarriage and was released from the aircraft. Her knowledge of the situation on board proved to be vital. Finally, after refueling the aircraft, the Libyans allowed it to get airborne again, this time bound for Uganda. Back in Israel, deep underground in the Kiryat headquarters of the Israeli Defense Force, the duty officer was already briefing the Sayeret Matkal, the IDF Special Forces Unit, who were already looking for an opportunity to intervene in Benghazi, but realized that this chance had passed. Throughout the 5-hour flight to Entebbe, the passengers endured a constant torrent of abuse from the terrorists, particularly from the German Brigitte Kuhlmann, much of it anti-Semitic in nature. But finally, the aircraft made its approach to Entebbe, where it taxied in under bright searchlights. A further 9 hours passed before the aircraft was moved to the old terminal, where the passengers and crew were finally allowed to disembark into the fly-infested building. Everyone was amazed to see that Ugandan soldiers now assisted the terrorists by guarding the hostages, whilst the hijackers relaxed and greeted 3 associates who were already waiting for them. They had arrived with an additional cache of weapons, including Kalashnikov assault rifles and more hand grenades. By now, the hijackers' demands had been made. They wanted a ransom of $5 million for the aircraft, plus the release of 53 pro-Palestinian militants, 40 of whom were in Israeli jails, with the rest in 4 other countries. Should their demands not be met, the hostages would be killed. The next afternoon, Idi Amin arrived by helicopter, greeting the passengers with jovial cries of "Shalom, Shalom." But when one of the hostages asked a question, addressing him as Mr. President, he flew into a complete rage, insisting on being called His Excellency Field Marshal Dr. Idi Amin Dada. He berated the innocent hostages and insisted that only Israel could solve the situation by acceding to the terrorist demands. Any hopes that Amin would intercede on their behalf had been quickly dashed. Soon the passengers were split into 2 groups, all the Jewish and Israelis being forced into a separate room along with the Air France crew. Over the next few days, the 148 non-Israeli hostages, including the Israeli Air Force officer who had managed to conceal his identity, were released and flown out to Paris. Those that remained were threatened with death. However, throughout this terrifying period, Idi Amin continued to visit, updating them on the negotiations and making idle promises, claiming that he was working towards their release. What he didn't know, however, were that plans were being made for a raid on the airport in case the negotiations failed. The initial concept involved parachuting commandos into Lake Victoria, but this idea was quickly abandoned because of the time involved and the possibility of crocodile attacks. There was also the problem of the distance that needed to be covered. Israel didn't have the necessary air-to-air refueling assets to complete the mission non-stop. But eventually Kenya's President Kenyatta was persuaded to assist by providing fuel at Nairobi Airport. Mossad were also at work, building intelligence on the whereabouts of the hostages and the number of troops and terrorists involved. By an amazing stroke of luck, the terminal building housing the passengers had been built by an Israeli firm, so a replica was constructed for the special forces to practice on. With the aid of the information passed on by the released passengers, particularly the Israeli Air Force officer, the situation was becoming clearer and a plan was coming together. Eventually, Operation Thunderbolt was given the green light, and 4 Israeli Air Force C-130 Hercules military transport aircraft with 100 personnel on board departed from Sharm el-Sheikh and secretly flew to Entebbe. They came in low under radar cover so that they remained undetected at no more than 100 feet at night and before the days of night vision goggles. Routing over the Red Sea, they passed south of Djibouti, northeast of Nairobi, across Somalia and Ethiopia, before flying down the Rift Valley and over Lake Victoria. 2 Boeing 707s followed the C-130s, the first equipped with medical facilities, which landed at Nairobi, and the second, which circled over Entebbe, with the overall commander, General Adam, on board. The ground commander was Brigadier General Dan Shomron, who stayed on the Command C-130 with a small group of communications and support personnel. The 29-man main assault unit was entirely composed of commandos and led by Lieutenant Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, the elder brother of Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel. This group's objective was the safe release of the hostages. The second group were paratroopers, given the task of securing the civilian part of the airfield, keeping the runways available and secure. A third force was tasked with protecting the Hercules aircraft, which were their sole means of escape for both the hostages and the rescuers. Finally, another force of Sayeret Matkal forces were to clear the military airstrip and destroy the squadron of MiG fighter jets that might intercept them as they departed. In addition, they were to hold off Ugandan reinforcements from the nearby city garrison. With the engines throttled back, lights off, and nearly whisper quiet, the C-130s landed. Their back doors were already open, and the assault force drove straight out. They were led by a black Mercedes, a replica of Idi Amin's state car, and followed by Land Rovers that looked just like his escort. As they approached the checkpoint, the guards, knowing that Amin had just purchased a new white limousine, stopped them. Realizing the game was up, the Israelis shot the Ugandans with silenced pistols, and the commandos moved off. But a soldier in a following Land Rover realized that one guard was still alive. His assault rifle finished the job, but the noise would surely have alerted the terrorists. They completed their final approach at speed, and running into the terminal building, they shouted in Hebrew and English, "Stay down, stay down." But sadly, a French-Israeli immigrant, misunderstood, came to his feet and was shot. In the short gun battle that followed, 3 terrorists were killed, but 2 other hostages died in the crossfire. "Where are the rest of them?" the commanders shouted in Hebrew. The hostages indicated a door to the main hall, which was kicked open to allow grenades to be thrown in. Soon after that, the rest of the terrorists were dead. Israeli armored personnel carriers were driven from the other C-130s to move the hostages and defend the aircraft for the hour required to refuel. MiG fighters started to explode, but by now the hostages were being loaded on board the rescue aircraft. However, the force on the runway was attracting fire from Ugandan soldiers in the control tower. A short but fierce fight ensued, wounding 5 commandos, but they continued to defend their position bravely. Then a bullet struck Lieutenant Colonel Netanyahu, their commander. His blood stained the red African dust as he died. The major, second in command, took over, and with the aid of rocket-propelled grenades, the resistance was finally quelled. After only 53 minutes, the raid was over. All 7 terrorists, plus around 40 Ugandan soldiers, were killed, and 11 MiG-17s and 21s had been destroyed. Of the 106 hostages, 3 died and 10 were wounded. One, the 75-year-old lady, Dora Bloch, who had been moved to a hospital in Entebbe, was left behind. The 102 rescued passengers were flown safely to Israel via Nairobi. The aftermath generated more conflict. Uganda used the floor of the United Nations in a vain attempt to condemn the rescue, but despite some criticism, the United States and United Kingdom stood by Israel, condemning the hijacking and praising the success of the raid, calling it an impossible operation. Western nations like France and Germany and even Switzerland stood in defense of Israel, calling the rescue an act of self-defense. President Idi Amin was incensed by the attack and the rescue of the hostages. In retribution, he had the 75-year-old British Israeli Dora Bloch dragged from her hospital bed and murdered. Some doctors and nurses that tried to intervene and protect their patient were shot down. In 1987, the Ugandan Human Rights Commission revealed that Dora had been executed and dumped in the trunk of a car with Ugandan intelligence service number plates. In addition, Amin ordered the killing of hundreds of Kenyans living in Uganda, in retaliation for Kenya's assistance in the raid. Initially called Operation Thunderbolt, this remarkable rescue was renamed in the memory of the leader of the Commando Strike Force, Lieutenant Colonel Netanyahu, who died on the runway at Entebbe, and it is now known as Operation Yonatan.
Fascinating story, true story, as they all are. And as we mentioned, the recent hijacking in Malta, they were filming at that airport a movie about this raid, I guess, in Entebbe, right?
Yes, I gather.
That's how we got on the whole subject, I guess, and we all
Well,
went,
that's
yeah, that
right.
would be
Yes,
great plane tales.
I have to attribute the idea of doing this one completely to you, Jeff. I must admit, I remembered the story. It was just after I joined the Air Force. I remember the movie they made, which was pretty accurate, but that was quite some time ago. So there are obviously some in the chat room that didn't know it, so it's rather pleasing. And of course, it was a great tribute to the commandos and paratroopers and the pilots, of course, of the 130s that did the raid. That they did it so professionally and with such little time to prepare.
I didn't recall the fact about Netanyahu being the commander of the raid.
Well, I didn't know that either, actually, until I did some digging around, and then I went, "Oh, okay."
I recognize that name.
Yeah, and
His older brother.
digging around, and there you go. It was his big brother.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amongst those in the chat room who didn't know the story at all. I really was unfamiliar with it, so very interesting.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir, for
thank you.
that. And I guess there will be another movie in the future about this whole thing. It'll be interesting to watch.
For sure.
All right. Let's see. Moving on with our feedback. Glenn sent us some audio feedback.
G'day, Captain Jeff, Steph, and Captain Nick. It's Glenn here from New Zealand. Happy New Year to you all from behalf of the APG syndrome sufferers of New Zealand. It's a bit of feedback about this Topulov 154 crash. Allegedly, it's caused by flaps, apparently faulty flaps, they're saying. And well, it's an unusual one, I suppose. I don't think I've ever heard of an air crash being caused by flaps. But I was wondering, does anyone think, would it happen on a more modern aircraft? I mean, a 30-year-old Topulov. I know that it seems to me the modern aircraft only use like 10 degrees of flap on takeoff. I see a lot of A320s and 777s and that sort of thing taking off, and they don't seem to use any flap at all compared to what they use on landings. Just a thought. Maybe you guys maybe know. I mean, I don't know how much flap they use on a Mad Dog on takeoff. Well, just an idea. Maybe just one your thoughts on the subject. That's it, really. Not much else I can think of to say apart from blue skies, tailwind to you all. Glenn out.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for the question. And in answer, there have been several crashes in history involving misset flaps for takeoff or forgetting to set flaps for takeoff. And even if you're not extending a huge amount of flaps for takeoff, it's still a critical thing. That bit of lift that they do provide does mean the difference between flying and not flying. And that's really the only thing I can say there. That in addition, usually when you extend any degree of flaps, and it depends on the airplane, you'll also have leading edge devices that also extend as well. And they basically change the shape of the airplane, shape of the wing for allowing the speed to be lower, creating a lot of lift at a lower speed. And it's a very critical thing.
So a little bit different in a lot of general aviation aircraft. You actually don't need to put out any flaps for takeoff. Some you do, but a lot of them you don't. and generally you'll use flaps on takeoff only for short field takeoffs where you do need to generate that extra lift at a lower speed. And then, like Captain Jeff was saying, you're going to use flaps when you're coming into land because you want to be able to descend without gaining as much airspeed. So that's one of the things that the flaps allow you to do as well. So,
yep.
Now, in my world, Glenn, you wouldn't quite be right because in the A340, we certainly used to, right to very recently, get airborne with flap 3, which is one of our landing settings. You can land in flap 3 or flap full. So if you watch an A340 get airborne, it would have had quite a lot of flap. The A330s, we would have used flap 2, which was obviously less. Now, I don't know what the angles are because we don't need to. Boeing guys set degrees. We just set a number. It's easier that way. But we've just moved on to a system where we now let the performance computer decide what flap we ought to use for takeoff. So we put a setting in there that allows the computer to come up with its best performance or best flap setting for the weight and the runway length and all the other factors that are thrown into the performance cauldron when it's stirred, and out pops the various speeds and in our case a flap setting. So the other day I got airborne on a 330 out of Washington with flaps 1 plus F, which is a very low flap setting. So that's an unusual one for us when we're going to do that. And of course, having for 22 years set flap 3 in a 340 and flap 2 on a 330, I'm not going to have to change my ways. So that's something new. Got to learn and try and integrate that into my knowledge base so that I don't screw up in the future.
Yeah, a lot of airlines now are using multi-flap settings for performance-based takeoffs, and it used to be, as you said, it used to be like you always used flaps 15 on the 727. Flaps 11 was a standard takeoff setting on the Mad Dog. But now, sometimes, taking off out of Atlanta, using a long runway, we might be taking off with only 5 degrees of flaps, a very low setting. We might find ourselves at LaGuardia, New York, with a very short runway and a very heavy weight. And it might be that the only flap setting that we can use and get airborne is 18 degrees. So we're all over the place from 18, 15, 13, 11, 5. Multiple flap settings now. So, which kind of,
if I can pick your brain, Jeff. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were going to make a point about continually changing them being a risk, but I was going to pick your brains. Would it be generally right to say the longer the runway, the less flap?
That seems to be the common denominator. And we hate it when we see flaps 5, the performance based on flaps 5, because it's like, might as well just take off, flaps up.
Oh, right. Okay.
But you have to, because the reason for that is because the speed is so high that you're rolling down the runway forever, and you're building up a really high speed, and then you're wondering if the tires are gonna not pop because the speeds are so high. But of course that's all figured in, but it just doesn't feel normal to us because we're so used to what a normal takeoff roll is with a normal flap setting. So it's just it's like a common exclamation when we see the performance data come out and it says flaps 5 and going, oh, flaps 5.
Yeah. We have additional concerns because on flaps 1 plus F, the aircraft is more sensitive in pitch. So it's quite easy to pitch the aircraft at too high a rate. And of course, you do that, you run the risk of scraping the tail. So of course you tend to pitch quite gingerly, but then again you've got higher takeoff speeds. So then it's just like you're worrying about overspeeding the tires. And I tell you, you overspeed a set of we've got 8, 10 tires on a 330. That's damned expensive because they just get all thrown away. That's it. Can't use them again.
And many people may be wondering, well, why would you use a lower flap setting and use more runway and go to higher speeds? Well, you can actually use a reduced power setting. So you're saving wear and tear on your engines. So it's a more fuel efficient takeoff. So that's why we're seeing more of that, I think. But anyway, so bottom line, Glenn, yes, in the airliner world, the degrees or flap settings are important, and if you try to take off, without any flaps at all or them set improperly, it can mean the difference between a successful takeoff and a crash. So there you go. I had not realized, Dr. Steph, that a normal takeoff in a general aviation aircraft is.
Yeah, and most like Cessna 172s, 150s, a lot of the Piper products, you don't set any flap out to take off. Only if you're going to do a short field or soft field, generally. In the Cirrus I just started flying, the normal takeoff flap setting is 50%. They have 50% and 100%. That's it.
And you know what? How many degrees?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I need to find
Doesn't
that
matter.
out. Doesn't matter. It's 50%.
Just like
for
1, 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a unit.
Exactly.
Let's see. Liz sent this in. She says, doesn't sound like it was a very fun experience for these flyers. Back late December, the takeoff of Spirit Airlines Flight 440 from Fort Lauderdale to Cleveland was delayed 2 hours and 5 minutes. And then, as they finally got off and it neared its destination, they had to divert to Detroit due to weather. Now, Detroit to Cleveland is just a 95-mile flight. However, Spirit decided to bus passengers from the Cleveland airport to Detroit. The buses arrived 3 hours late. Now, if you look at a map and do a Google directions search between Cleveland Hopkins International and Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport in Detroit, you can't just go straight there because there's this big giant, I would call it a Great Lake, Lake Erie. And unless it's in the middle of winter and it's all iced over, you can't do that. You have to take roads.
So it's a little more than 95 miles?
Yeah.
You're saying?
Quite
like
a bit more.
145 miles?
Yeah, a lot more.
Love it.
And so so the buses arrived 3 hours late, and then one of the buses broke down near Toledo, about the halfway.
No.
Yeah.
This just gets worse and worse. Oh my
And while
goodness.
airlines have to provide food and water during flight delays, there are no such rules about bus delays. And let's see, here's a quote from one of the passengers. Let's see, I would like a representative from Spirit to contact the passengers that were sitting on the bus on the side of the highway. Elderly people, people with kids, she said. They wouldn't give us any drinks, meals. They wouldn't even give us a bottle of water. According to Spirit Airlines, the bus made it to Cleveland about 3:30 in the morning, about 10 and a half hours late. And a passenger on the bus relays that they made it home at 5 a.m. Wow. Hey, that's not all bad. Spirit gave each passenger a $50 voucher for future travel on Spirit. But pointed out that that's generous and not something that they have to do.
We're just being nice.
Yeah. Be happy that we're giving you the $50 voucher. Yeah. That does not sound like it was a very pleasant experience.
It doesn't. I do remember trying to get airborne out of Heathrow to go to New York. And we had a wing bleed leak warning. So that aircraft was broken, and it took about 4 or 5 hours to get everything moved into a new aircraft. And when eventually we got airborne, we couldn't land at New York because they'd shut the airports because of thunderstorms. We diverted to Boston. By the time we'd done a lot of holding and got into Boston, we were out of duty hours. So we couldn't take the flight on anywhere. So they bussed everyone from Boston to New York.
I remember you telling that story.
Yeah, I do remember that.
You did feel sorry for them, I must admit.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to the ground staff saying, were the passengers upset at all? She said, oh, there were a few screamers.
Wow.
Not funny.
Yeah. Well, I
I've
mean,
seen
you know,
some things that are just like, I can't believe that we're doing this to our passengers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead, Steph.
oh, I was just gonna say, you know, this stuff happens sometimes when you're traveling. It can't always be smooth sailing or smooth flying. But I don't know. Just gotta roll with it
Go with the
sometimes.
flow.
Exactly.
No one's trying to mess up your life.
No one wants that to happen. Not like, you know what, today, instead of taking our passengers to the correct airport, we're going to go on 95 miles away on the other side of the lake and then put them on buses just for fun. No one's doing that.
I overheard a guy when I was taking the train to Atlanta airport yesterday. This guy had booked a flight to Lauderdale on Spirit, and he was telling me about his experience, and it was the same guy that left me I played that little message for you.
He was a little bit of a character.
Yeah, he was. 84-year-old former physician, now retired, and former pilot as well. He told me that he was the world's worst pilot, that doctors should not fly. And he said that his wife made him give up flying.
He used some colorful language in the process too. It was very, very funny, actually.
You know what's funny about that?
Great kick out of it.
Yeah, he gave me a not quite so adult language version of it when we were talking on the platform. But then when we were on the train and I actually pulled out my voice recorder to record that for you, I didn't realize it because it was so noisy and I wasn't monitoring.
You didn't even know what it said.
No, I didn't realize that he had used that word, that F-bomb.
Love it.
It was funny.
You can't trust those doctors, you know.
No.
But no, Spirit, it's a good airline like all the rest, and this sort of thing happens on all of our carriers, even Acme Red and Acme and all the rest. And you certainly don't want that to happen to your passengers, but sometimes just stuff happens. But anywho, you want to do this one, Captain Nick? Lewis wrote to you about future.
Yes, he
Acme Red.
did. Lewis wrote to Lewis Anderson, another great Anderson. There seems to be quite a few.
I think you know all these people. Are you just getting your relatives to say
Yeah, it's just family. He's like, hey guys,
we need more feedback.
I think you're right. He wrote to my photographic website, so it picked up in my personal email, so I forwarded it through. So he said, good evening, Captain Nick. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and are finally getting some much deserved time off with your family. Well, it didn't last long because I had a trip on Christmas Day. There are worse places to be on Christmas Day. Well, yes. I've written below my story so far, but I appreciate you may have better things to do than read it all out. What do you reckon, Jeff? Have we got time? Jeff's gone.
that's all we have is time. So
yeah,
go ahead.
That's fair enough. So anyway, I'm a great fan of the APG podcast and the great chemistry between yourself, Jeff, Steph, and Rick when he's there. I only recently discovered it, but I've been going through the backlog and listening to episodes on my long commute to work. I currently work for Monarch Airlines in the ground operations department based in Luton. We'll have to call that Acme something. Think of something, Steph. What should we call that one?
What, the airline? I think it already has a name.
Yeah,
Royal
too
Jets.
late. I've used it.
No, not that name. I think Captain Al refers to it as.
Acme Coronet.
Yeah, we might have to cut all that out because I don't know. If
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I messed that up.
Okay, well,
anyway.
Start from another point. Make this easier on me.
So read that paragraph again and insert whatever you want to call that airline into it.
So currently, Louis works for Monarch Airlines in the ground operations department based in Luton. And previously, I worked in ground handling at London South End. South End's nowhere near London, but don't worry about that. Being a Heathrow man, he says, I thought you might get a chuckle out of South End pretending to be London. Yeah, I just did. I didn't realize you were going to add that bit. My current role is great fun, as it allows me to travel across the Monarch network, ensuring that everything ground handling wise is running as it should be at my allocated airports. Whilst it is enjoyable, great experience, my dream has always been to end up in the right-hand seat of an airline. Well, mate, you should dream to be in the left-hand seat. It's a lot more fun. And have a career as an airline pilot progress from there. Wow, that's a good place to start. I certainly had a taste of flying, having logged 34 hours in a Cessna 152 at a small grass strip called Clacton Aero Club. I've also volunteered at Classic Wings at Duxford Aerodrome. That's a lovely place. Lots of old aircraft there. They're great fun. Helping out on the ground with their pleasure flying program, Tiger Moths and the Rapide, Dragon Rapide, pair of inverted Gypsy Majors, as I recall. I was even lucky enough to pilot the Tiger Moth under the careful eye of an instructor. He only got one eye. What poor chap. Safe to say that I caught the flying bug. And now the APG syndrome, Jeff. Oh, too late.
He's just...
he's polishing his glasses or something.
He was. Not paying any attention to what we're doing. No.
APG syndrome.
Excellent. So we got there at the end.
So okay, back up. Boy.
Nah, too. I like it the way it is.
Feedback ever.
This is great feedback. Anyway,
I thought I'd be able to take a break and not have to push buttons or talk or anything.
Or edit after the fact.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think my days are numbered, he says. Unfortunately, I do not own a house, secure a loan. I do not have enough funds to pay for all the training up front. Of course, few do. For this reason, I've decided that in order to have the best chance of reaching my goal, I would have to do my best to get onto an airline-sponsored cadet scheme. Whilst I previously applied for cadet programs, which would take me from low hours to a frozen ATPL or MPL, MPL, remind me what that is, multi-pilot license.
Multi-crew license, I think, or multi-crew pilot, something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Okay. I have not succeeded so far. I recently applied for the Virgin Atlantic Future Flyer program and passed the initial application stage. Currently, I'm preparing for an assessment day on Friday the 13th. Just my luck. Oh, gold. With CTC Aviation, they're the guys that run that on behalf of Virgin Atlantic, I understand, which will be followed by an interview in Virgin's Crawley HQ if I am successful. Is there any advice you can give me about what can help me stand out from the crowd on these assessment days and perhaps stand a better chance of getting onto this highly competitive program? Of course, I've been doing plenty of my own research, but advice from someone in your position would hold weight and be much appreciated. Best wishes, and hope you're enjoying many an IPA from Louis Anderson. So it's an interesting question, and despite the fact that you have granted me something I don't have, a great weight and lots of information, you really ought to be asking someone at the other end of their career. In other words, someone who's recently joined the airline, particularly through or recently got through one of those schemes. Because those of us who are completing our careers, we joined our airlines a long time ago, and we're so far divorced from the modern and the current joining system that I don't have personally have a lot of information about any system, Virgin Atlantic or otherwise, I'm afraid. However, we're in contact now via email, Louis, so if I can get something, I will try and or perhaps put you in touch with someone who is better placed to give you advice, and if that's of any use to you, that's great. However, what I will do is wish you all the best, and good luck. If you do get through, I trust that you'll enjoy yourself, and it won't be an easy job. I know it's not a. I've just had a thought. I do know someone who's just about to head out to America to start flying, having completed the ground school part of this, and that might be the perfect person to put you in touch with. So let me do that, and perhaps they can give you their own experiences that might help you in the future. And as I was trying to say before, I wish you all the best in your budding career. Good luck.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Sounds like a great idea.
Louis Anderson, wasn't he a stand-up comic?
Yes.
Or isn't he?
Not in
Is he still
England.
with us? Oh, not in England. Okay.
He used to lie down here.
Different guy.
Yeah.
Lie down comedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're very laid back over here.
You are. You are. I love British humor. when I can find it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like gold nuggets.
Wish I had a soundboard I could play a rim shot. Okay. Put that on the list. Robert writes, thanks for researching and answering my recent question about the BOAC Atlanta plane from Netflix's The Crown, which of course we let everybody know it was supposed to be Atalanta. Anyway, thought I would share my notes and photos from my 3-day Geek and Delta status run on ATL, MSP, DTW, ICN, DTW, MSP, Atlanta this week. So it's Atlanta, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Detroit, Incheon, I believe.
Yep.
Korea, Detroit, Minneapolis, Atlanta. Wow, that's a big trip. I'd only flown on an aircraft, or no, an AC 747.
Air Canada.
AC Air Canada.
No, they don't have 747s, do they?
I don't know what AC 747 would be. To Frankfurt years ago, and this opportunity popped up to hop on one of Northwest's and now Delta's few remaining 747s before they're retired. I ended up on November 666 Uniform Sierra. He goes, of all call signs? And he says he was on that for both ways in the same seat in row 2 upstairs after someone asked to swap with me on the return leg. My seatbelt extension was still in the seat when I got back on in Incheon for the return home. I suppose this was meant to be, although Delta's reservation system was on to me and would not release a boarding pass to me until I got to Minneapolis, St. Paul, as I booked on separate reservations to save some money. Both crews, pilots, and flight attendants were great. I think my return crew was possibly the best experience I've ever had at Delta. I happened to leave the Asiana, love their flight attendant hats, by the way, lounge at Incheon to make the trek over to the boarding gate as the crew was making their way over to our gate. I made some small talk, and they quickly warmed up to me on the outbound, as the outbound crew did, allowing several of us to take photos. For Dr. Steph, the return 747 pilot crew had one lady pilot who asked how she dealt with all the other men, and she quickly responded that she doesn't take anything off anyone. Even her doctor has found that she has an unusually higher than normal testosterone levels. Okay.
Huh. All right.
To try to stay to try to stay on Atlanta time, I took a pill to help me sleep, and I awoke to a keepsake 747 hologram card that she had taped to my entertainment screen. Another very nice touch. Okay, so I'm not sure what to take from that, but continuing, the crews were gracious to talk shop with me. The crews were gracious to talk shop with me some. Once I shared that I was mostly along for the ride, and the APG podcast did come up for discussion. Mostly the non-automated Boeings versus the automated Airbuses. Obviously, the 747 pilots are not ready to see her go. The flight attendants turned the stairway lights on for a photo shoot too. We may not see another plane like the 747 ever built. Nick, be quiet. There are some obvious differences in design that the aviation nerd can point out, especially as one flight attendant agreed with me, the amount of space the crew gets versus what the new planes come with. November 666 US is showing her age a bit in places for sure as well. I couldn't help but keep thinking about the fierce Korean flight attendant with her taser, who you all recently reported on, as the crew had to keep manning the cockpit door for restroom breaks and crew changes. Adding some culture notes, as I know the crew loves toilet humor. No, I was not brave enough to press the green button. Korean television feels like you're playing a video game a bit, and somehow Latino soap operas. Wait a minute, let's go back to that bathroom thing. What's the green button? Is that like a bidet?
The green button? I have no idea. He's just saying that
Korean culture notes. I know the crew loves toilet humor. No, I was not brave enough to press the green button.
Is he saying that we enjoy toilet humor?
I mean, we do, yeah, but I'm still kind of.
I don't know what the green button is, though.
Button is. I'm kind of curious now. What is that green button?
Do we really want to know?
It's a bottom washer.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
because they like their fancy toilets. And
well, certainly the Japanese do. I don't know about the Koreans, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Well, oh, never mind. Anyway, Korean television feels like you're playing a video game a bit, and somehow Latino soap operas have made their way there too. However, I understand they are not so popular. South Korea is so clean and modern, yet just an hour away is North Korea, such a different country, so hard to believe. Koreans do love their heat, though. Woo! I never needed to wear a jacket in any of their buildings or vehicles. The return crew and I beat our plane who was being towed to our gate at Incheon and gave me a better photo opportunity. I understand some tests on the APU were not looking so good. Some last-minute maintenance was done that another source tells me was not exactly necessary. But even with that delay and de-icing that had to be done twice, I still made my flights home. One of the Incheon maintenance staff was a young Korean girl, and she was relaying what she saw when she was looking at the back of the plane to the crew in the cockpit. Way to go for her to seek a profession that not many women would typically choose. A question here. When a plane is out of base like this far away, what would the local maintenance contractor be responsible for beyond towing the plane? How long of a response time for severities of maintenance issues, etc.? Actually changed to a new A321 from Minneapolis to Atlanta that someone got sick and christened. Oh, how nice. The maintenance ground staff, or the Minneapolis ground staff, had to rush to replace seat covers, seat belts, and unclog a sink before we could get aboard. Wow, that person must have been really sick.
They were not feeling so well.
They clogged the sink too.
Yeah, that's
probably a good thing Rick's not
Please,
here to.
folks, if you're going to puke, go in the toilet, not in the sink.
Not the sink.
It's probably a good thing that Rick's not here to give his opinion on why that person might have tossed their lunch if they were flying on an Airbus.
Also, the after effects of their Boeing flight.
Oh, man. So, quite a neat experience. 3 days, 6 flights, one of the oldest planes in the fleet to one of the newest, and 2 leased 717s from Southwest. Home early, a little over 16,000 miles, lots of decent meals and booze, and some of the best crews I've flown with. Happy holidays to the crew. Although, yes, I'm sure won't get to this until 2017. And Robert from Atlanta, you are correct, sir. We got it early 2017, though. That's only the 9th. Give us a break.
Pretty good.
And
Yeah.
just to fill in a little area there where your knowledge was slightly lacking, Air Canada had 747s up until about 13 years ago. And guess what replaced them? They got rid of their ancient, falling apart, awful 747s and replaced them with nice A330s.
I'm sorry.
A330s. I'll just say that again. A330s.
Yeah, 13 years. That's probably why I didn't remember that they had 747s.
There you go.
Anyway.
Oh, man. No, it's a great airplane. They're all great airplanes.
They're all airplanes. Yeah.
Everybody's great.
We love them.
We love everybody.
Something to
I
talk
love,
about.
I love all the airplanes. I don't know about you guys. I think they're all great airplanes.
I love all people. I love all planes.
There you go.
I won't say that about all people. No, I'm just kidding. I love all people.
Except for your last patient today. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back around on.
So what
that
about
one, too.
what about the question about the maintenance contractors? That aren't necessarily the normal maintenance crews for an airline, the contract maintenance we call it. What are their responsibilities beyond towing the plane? How long of a response time for severities of maintenance issues, etc.? What do you think there, Nick?
Well, if they need to be qualified to service the aircraft, so they should be able to do it just as well as everyone else, but they often aren't particularly familiar with the fit of an aircraft. So if it's something that's peculiar to an airline, the local service engineers may not have the same level of knowledge. They certainly don't usually have the same level of motivation. So they're often just a little bit slower because it's just another airplane to them, and they have no... they're not invested in that airline, so they have no particular interest in rushing around trying to get it fixed as possible. And of course, if you're using maintenance personnel, then there's a good chance that they won't have a big spares pool there. So if they're doing maintenance that requires a spare, they may need to fly it in from somewhere else, and that's going to take a while. But the answer is the quality of engineering you should get from an engineer depends upon his qualifications, not really whether he's working for your airline or a contractor. They're all qualified engineers. They have to pass exams just like everyone else, be qualified on the types that they operate on, and they all should be of the same standard.
Yep. And the last time I flew as a passenger on an airline, I actually encountered that where the flight I was on needed some maintenance work, and it was not in that particular airline's one of their maintenance bases. And the flight crew came on and said, "We have no idea how long it's going to take them to get here. We've put in a call. They will get to us in the order that the call was received." Much like
your call is very important to us.
Please stay on the line, and your call will be answered.
I don't believe it. Oh dear.
So that's exactly what they told us, and I said,
"Yep,
that's nice." But
that's when you bailed.
That's when I bailed. That's when I jumped ship back over to Acme.
Very sensible.
And that's really, in my experience, flying domestically, when we go somewhere where we don't have Acme 8 maintenance, and we have to call contract maintenance, it could be anything from another big airline's maintenance that is there at the airport and they're there already and they might be there right away, to, Joe A&P mechanic who lives about 3 hours away, and he's got to drive his pickup truck to the airport. And so it's like you just have to wait for the contract maintenance person technician to get there. And so you have it's a variety of things, but it's not ever the same as your own maintenance that are based there, that are on duty, who are familiar with the airplane, as Captain Nick said, and the specific fittings for that particular airline, et cetera, et cetera. And then also the other problem that we have with contract maintenance is performing all the paperwork that after they've fixed the airplane, the logbook has to be filled out a specific way and written up with certain, numbers and everything else. And that sometimes takes as long or longer than actually, doing the maintenance work on the airplane. So yeah, it's a big mess. You don't want to have to call contract maintenance unless there's no way around it. That's my experience anyway. All right, good. Thank you, Robert, for sharing that with us. And let's see. We've already done that one.
Someone in the chat rooms just said Ray Davis, Air Canada do have 747. So whether they've still got them, I don't know. I was looking at a blog posting that was saying they were being removed. This was 13 years ago. So I don't know. Do you mean, Ray, do you mean they still have them now, or did they have them? Question mark. Perhaps we'll get the answer to that before too long.
Yeah, we'll see what he says. In the meantime, I would like to play some audio feedback from one of our listeners. And you may have heard of him before. His name's Devin.
Hey, Captain Jeff and crew. It's Devin, the Herc driver. Just want to take a minute and tell the community, and yourselves in particular, how grateful I am to have you guys kind of in this community. I know it maybe sounds corny, but I guess let me back up. I recently got hired by a regional airline, and that has enabled me to listen to a lot of my podcasts on the go. And I was recently on a deadhead listening to the latest episode of APG when we got to the end of the episode, and Micah had sent in the feedback regarding my grandmother passing away on early Christmas morning. And I was instantly struck with a lot of emotion, and was luckily seated in the back row because I shed a few tears and I didn't want anyone to see me in my uniform back there. I would normally have waited till I got home to send this feedback, but it's just so recent on my mind. It's been weighing heavy on my heart, and I wanted to do it while I was thinking about that. So I'm coming to you today from the Indianapolis terminal. So sorry I don't have my condenser microphone and mixer board and high sound quality that I'd normally have, but I just wanted to give a very sincere and heartfelt thank you. While I've got you, everyone's attention, there's a couple other questions I'd been meaning to send in anyway. So what the heck? I'll just bundle them all in with this. Recently was listening to an episode of 99% Invisible, which I'm sure some of your listeners also listen to, because that's how I discovered the podcast, was through your show. Someone was talking about an episode of 99% Invisible. Episode 168, there's a song on there called The Commander Thinks Aloud by the Long Winters. Sorry, the episode's not called that. The episode is about a song called The Commander Thinks Aloud by the Long Winters. And in particular, 99% Invisible is featuring an episode from another podcast called Song Explorer, which is part of his Radiotopia podcast network. But it's very good. It's about the commander of the Columbia breaking up. And then he said he was inspired by that and some other aviation accidents. And it's just about aviation accidents. And that's something I've always been somewhat called to. For some reason, I've been interested in that. I guess in a previous life, I worked as an investigator, and so I've always been interested in the investigation and the causal factors. And I know you, being from a Air Force safety background, something you obviously are also interested in. So it's a very good episode, good song. Just thought I'd share it. The other question I had, and then I'll wrap up and get off here. So I was kind of wondering, as someone who I've dabbled a little bit in podcasting, thinking about starting an episode or a podcast of my own. I've got condenser mic and mixer and all that stuff. I know you carry your stuff with you and you podcast on the road, and I was wondering how in the world you do that, because one lesson I learned very quickly being a new hire to the airline is how much of a premium luggage space is. So, I go on a 4 or 5 day and I can't imagine that, let alone carry it in a way I wouldn't worry about it getting broken. So just curious how you manage that. Anyway, that's everything. Mainly, I just wanted to tell everyone thank you for their thoughts and prayers, and it meant a lot. Maybe it seemed like a simple thing to all of you, but it really did mean a lot. Take care and God bless.
Hey, Devin, thanks for sending that in. Hey, we got your back. We're all a big family, a bunch of us aviation geeks, and when any of us has any loss or hurt in their lives, it affects all of us. So I'm glad that we were able to touch you in that way. And what else to say?
Wonderful. I don't know. Wonderful, heartfelt feedback. We love hearing that. So
absolutely. And it's just one of the great things about this community. We formed a community of friends. We may all be linked by our love of aviation, but when it comes down to it, we're all friends, and what friends do is to support each other. So one of us is hurt, the rest of us will, send virtual hugs, real ones if we can get to you, but certainly we'll be feeling the same loss, and we'll be thinking about you, Devin.
Yeah,
exactly.
And thanks for the tip on 99% Invisible in that particular episode. And then the last question you asked about the podcasting gear. So I have this, most pilots have this big, I'm showing people that are watching the video, a big, not quite as big as our old brain bags, we used to call them, carrying all the manuals and everything else, but it's a significant size bag that's made for carrying headsets and flashlights and, that kind of stuff for flying. Well, I use mine for all of my podcasting gear, and not all of the gear fits in this particular one, actually.
And he said heck with the headsets and the flashlights and all that other stuff. That's not important.
No, actually, no. I have a backpack that I'm holding up here that has all that stuff in it. So that's the bag that stays closest to me. I have my electronic flight bag, my tablet Surface, and my headset and flashlight and all the stuff related to flying. But I also have a bunch of podcast gear in there as well. And so, I have a audio interface and a digital audio recorder. I have my laptop, and I got an iPad, an iPhone, and since I carry my or put my laptop up a little bit higher so the camera angle's better, I end up having a magic trackpad and a Bluetooth keyboard, and I got all kinds of stuff. And this heavy microphone, of course. So you're right. Space is a premium, and it's a hassle carrying around all the weight and extra baggage. But I just find it's worth it. It's worth the sacrifice for me to have good equipment with me on my trips and be able to do this as best I can. So if you want more definitive details on all the stuff and what I use and everything else, we can do that off air. But yeah, it's just the only time it's really a problem is when I have to deadhead, because they're not expecting people to bring as much stuff, and I have a bunch of stuff, but I always seem to make it work.
You generally deadhead on your own company's aircraft?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you get the girls
Occasionally
to put it in a wardrobe or something, don't you?
What I try to do is if they'll let me get on the airplane before they start loading passengers, that really helps. Then I can find places to take up all that overhead space that pay passengers.
I love it.
Like, no, they'll just check everyone else's bags at the gate. It's fine.
That's right.
That's going to happen anyway. So what's another bag or two?
It's a lot of fun to check your bag. You should do it more often.
Yeah. It's really fun when you get on the plane and you've checked your bag at the gate, and then you get off the plane because of a mechanical issue and get on another plane, and then your bag arrives 4 days later.
Oops.
I'm just saying.
Oh, it sounds like you might have experience with that.
I will never check my bag again unless I absolutely have to.
Now, one thing that if you're a pilot and you're in a pilot uniform, you have the right credentials to go down onto the ramp area. We can put a tag on a deadhead bag, our tag on our bag, and that goes in the cargo hold. And I try not to do that if I can help it, because sometimes the ramp workers they're not quite as concerned about your bag as you are.
The stuff that might be fragile inside your bag?
Yeah, I always take out anything that might be fragile or expensive out of my bag if I have to. But, the thing is, we bring it down there ourselves. It's almost like, going on a Greyhound bus. You put your bag right outside the baggage compartment, and then you're there to pick it up when you get to your destination. That's kind of the way the deadhead baggage works for pilots. But and that helps. I'll try to do that as much as I can with my big suitcase, so that I don't take up a whole bunch of space in the airplane.
Yeah. But now Jennifer in the chat room knows why she has to charge Acme extra landing fees anytime you come to town.
Yeah, when I'm on the airplane, it's a lot heavier for many reasons, including my actual body weight. So anyway, so Devin, thanks again for your very heartfelt message to us, to the crew and the community, and hope that answered your question about the podcast gear. This is kind of a touching message too, sent from Ruben to Captain Nick. It's a picture of an Airbus. But
there are no T-tailed Airbuses.
It's a T-tailed Airbus.
There are no T-tailed. There are plenty of T-tailed other things. I'm sure Boeing have a few T-tails in there somewhere.
Let's see if I can
share
this.
Is that T-tailed?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, okay.
Suck it up, Jeff.
I do all the time. Let's see.
And for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, you'll just have to go to look at the show notes of the picture of this amazing.
Or go to YouTube and watch the video, which I'm putting up for those who are watching this thing live or watching the video on YouTube. This is a Cubana Airbus. It's a bus with a T-tail on it.
Yeah, it's made to look a little bit like an aircraft, except it's lacking wings.
Yeah.
And other essential parts.
And
doors.
Glass in the windows.
A few things.
Yeah, very funny, Ruben. I'm sure that Captain Nick really appreciated it.
Yeah, I do. Just wait till the next time we meet. By the way, just going back a couple of feedbacks, I've actually found the definitive answer about Air Canada and their 747s. And assuming they know from their own website what aircraft they have in their owner company, there are no 747s. The biggest they have now is a 777-300ER.
Gotcha.
They've got lots of lovely Airbuses.
Yes.
Do they now?
Yes. So I'm just going to go no to Ray.
So
I don't feel quite so bad for not knowing that they at one time had them.
I don't think you should. Okay. So we talked about it at the beginning of the show. One of the ways that you can support the show is via your financial contributions via the Coffee Fund. And one of the perks of being a Coffee Fund cadre member is the occasional APG crew log. And I put out one, actually it was a video that I put out, I don't know, a few days back. And Larry wrote in, he's part of the Coffee Fund cadre, just watched the captain's log video and I thought I would try the closed captions. And he said, they work pretty well, except for the very end when you say, wishing you unlimited visibility, tailwinds, and God bless. And he has a screenshot of the closed caption that says, wishing you unlimited visibility and talons. Take care, Douglas.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close.
You totally get that if you were just watching it without the sound or couldn't hear the sound.
I was telling Steph and Captain Nick that I have something that actually translates my voicemails into text. And it generally does a pretty good job. But every time Acme crew scheduling notifies me, the thing translates that as Acme screwed notification system. That's what it's Acme crew notification system, but it always puts Acme screwed.
It knows the real truth.
It's
like this guy's getting screwed over right now.
You need to take a screenshot of that and send it to your crewing department.
It's usually you're getting screwed.
Yep.
Apple actually does that with their voicemail now too.
Oh, that's beta. Right. They do. Yeah. I've been using Google Voice for many years, and they've been doing it, for a long time. But yeah, you're right. I've noticed that with Apple, what do they call that? Voicemail, live voicemail, or
visual voicemail?
Visual voicemail. That's it. Yeah. They're doing it now too. That's cool. And quickly, we're almost to the end of the show here, but let me just do this last one from Pasadena Brian. He said, "Hi crew, hope all is well, and you all had a great Christmas and birthday, Captain Jeff, New Year's celebrations. I can't believe that you didn't remember that we had Second Officer Andy Bard on the Airplane Geeks show, episode 428. Shameless plug. The show can be found at airplanegeeks.com/428 and is entitled The Life of a Second Officer. Please pass along this episode information to your listener of episode 252 who is asking. It's a great conversation about being a second officer and answers a question over how much flight time a second officer gets credit for when flying. I can't remember the exact answer, but I believe it's 50% credit of flight hours and only for the time the second officer is actually flying. Now that we got my shameless self-promotion out of the way for Airplane Geeks, I have a question for Dr. Steph, as there have been so many episodes recently talking about aviation and drinking. My question is, can alcohol be metabolized differently in the same person? For example, sometimes when I have an adult beverage, I feel fine. Other times, I'll feel the effects, and others have told me that I start to slur my words. This usually happens after the second or third drink. He says, parenthetically, I'm drinking now and didn't want to slur the recording, so I'm sending an email.
That's wise.
Anyway, yeah. This condition doesn't seem to have anything to do with APG syndrome or the time of day, quantity of food I've eaten, amount of rest, etc. It just seems to be a random as to how drunk I feel or others perceive about me. Any thoughts on this are greatly appreciated. As always, thank you very much to you and the entire team for producing such a great show. Cheers, Pasadena Brian. What do you think about that?
So I think it actually probably does have a lot to do with the amount of food you've had, the quantity of food that you've had, how hydrated you are, and not just for that day, but for several days leading up to that point. That's certainly, your intuition is correct that you can metabolize alcohol differently on different days. Whether it's, you could even be having the same exact type of alcoholic beverage from one day to the next, drink the exact same quantity, and have massively different effects in terms of how quickly you metabolize it and how quickly you begin to feel the effects of the alcohol. And it probably really does have more to do than you think with the quality of sleep you've gotten, the quantity of sleep you've gotten previously to starting your drinking. How much, I think hydration is a big part of it. So if you've been hydrating only with alcohol for a couple of days, that could be a lot.
That's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you're not hydrated.
You would think that after drinking all that beer that you'd just be very hydrated.
Super hydrated. But if you have one day where, maybe you've had more coffee than water, when normally you would have more water than coffee, or anything along that line, you may not feel different when you start drinking, which is why you don't notice it. But you'll certainly feel those effects very shortly thereafter.
Brian, you haven't told us how much nose candy you've been trying as well.
Jeez, taking a completely different turn here.
Well, I mean, it might not be the alcohol.
It could be the illicit narcotic drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, that certainly has a lot to do with it too. And by the way, we are not endorsing that type of.
No, we are not endorsing any of
that. No. But if you want to pay for advertising, we'll consider it.
Hey, backing up a little bit, I have to admit, when the question from whomever, the episode, whatever it was, 252, asking about the second officer and logging and that kind of thing, I have to be honest with you. When I think of second officer, I think of a flight engineer, because when I was a second officer, that's what I did. I was I was a pilot. At least at Acme Airlines, everybody that flew as a flight engineer was a qualified pilot, but it didn't involve flying at all. It was all, plumbing or work in the panel. Apparently, I have not realized this until this very moment, that what we call cruise officers or relief officers or whatever pilots, that's also referred to as a second officer. So, wow.
And there's such a thing as second in command time, which I am not going to explain appropriately because I'm not sure that I understand it correctly. But let me see here. I just logged into AOPA and they've got some information on it. So second in command time is a category some pilots find elusive, including me. By regulation, many turbojet and transport category aircraft require two pilots, a PIC and SIC. So if you're qualified and sitting in the right seat while flying one of these aircraft, it's appropriate to notate that flight time in your logbook's SIC column. Even if you're flying a 2 or 4 seat trainer certificated for single pilot operations, you can sometimes log right seat time, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. So a private pilot with at least a private pilot certificate and the appropriate category and class ratings can log SIC time when acting as a safety pilot. So I think there's other reasons to log SIC time as well, and I'm not familiar with it. So I'm sure someone else will write us and let us know. Or you could just go over to Airplane Geeks, airplanegeeks.com, episode 428, and maybe they will shed some light on this mysterious.
Yeah, I log in command time even when I'm fast asleep in the bunk.
Because you are.
What do we talk about padding?
Well, it's not like I need the hours, but even when I'm fast asleep in the bunk, I'm still in command.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So,
well,
I don't know. Maybe I'll find some more information on that because it's out there somewhere.
Well, maybe you'll understand it. I have no idea.
Unlikely, but I'll try.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
Me neither. It's late. It's especially late for Captain Nick and all of those who are still in the chat room.
Too late in my career to worry about.
Yeah, I know. I'm not worried about it either. If I need to worry about that now at this point in my career, then I'm going to do something else. Just stop doing everything. So, but great points. And thanks for the plug for Airplane Geeks, Pasadena Brian. He's the associate producer there for that great podcast.
And a very nice bloke who gets drunk quickly.
That slurs his words like just right off the bat. Well, thank you, passenger Brian. Yeah, how's that keyboard, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Still a little sticky.
Yeah. I think it may have died a slow keyboard death, drowning in beer.
That's not good. Anyway, no, we kid. We love Passenger Brian. He's part of our family. So, and all of you are listening. So, thanks for doing that, by the way. And if you want to learn more about the show, we always point you over to the airlinepilotguy.com website. As I mentioned before, you can learn about the coffee fund and the crew and the community and what else? Merchandise. And you can even go there to watch this show live. You need to, of course, follow us on social media. How would they do that, Dr. Steph?
So social media, you can head over to Twitter, follow all four of us together at APG Crew. If you're interested in contacting one of us individually on Twitter, there's a pinned tweet at the top of the page that has all of our individual Twitter accounts listed there. You can head over to Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. There's community interaction there, and mainly Jeff and Nick post regularly on that forum. Well, maybe not so much Jeff, just Nick.
I'm thinking about just quitting Facebook.
Well, anyway, there is stuff happening over there.
I'm your alter ego, Jeff.
That's right. Or you can head over to, you can go on your phone or mobile devices app store and get the Slack app. And that's kind of like a big perpetual chat room if you're into that type of thing. And if you'd like to join that, contact Hillel, one of our community members, but you'll have to do that on Twitter. So go over to his Twitter account, which is at HI11E1, and he'll need an email address from you so that he can give you access to our Slack team site. And that should do it for social media.
And speaking of mobile devices, Captain Nick, how would they get their APG fix if they have a smartphone or a tablet?
You go to the App Store and you download the APG app, which will be free, cost you nothing, and be of great benefit, because when Captain Jeff sends off his notifications letting you know there's a live show on, you'll get a little ping if you've set it up on your phone to remind you it's time to turn on. And also, of course, you can go in there and listen to all the podcasts, and there's other general information about us, the presenters, and the rest of the show.
Absolutely. By the way, did you get your notification today before the show?
No.
No?
Yes.
Oh, why so?
Well, that's because my phone's in the kitchen.
Did it make a sound?
I don't know. It's in the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was at work when I got mine. And
Okay, well, I set
did
it
not
up
make
for a
any
ding
noise.
dong sound, sounded like the doorbell. Ding dong.
Oh. Did your dogs go nuts if they heard? Yeah.
Yeah, I did the barking dogs before, but I guess that would be not unusual for Captain Nick. I guess his notifications already sound like barking dogs.
They do. Oh, here we go. I did get a notification.
Oh, okay, good. So there you go. What more could you want from the APG?
We've got everything.
Everything. And doorbells on your phone. So,
Miami Rick would be nice.
That would be nice. I think he's in Korea or something right now. Not sure, but anywho, thanks everybody for hanging with us on this episode. Thanks for downloading. If you use iTunes to get your podcast episodes and you haven't already done so, you have a couple extra seconds to write a review. That'd be great. And those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching us and putting up with all our shenanigans. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and talons. Take care, Douglas.
Take care, y'all.
Cheers, everybody.
I wonder what the captions will do now.
It's going to actually get it correct. It's just going to say, take care, talons, Douglas, whatever it was.
God bless. I love it.
Visibility and talons. Take care,
Talons.
Douglas.
Take care, Douglas.
Excellent.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we got in under 3 hours, I think.
No, well done. Now, I have a question. I didn't get all the way through listening to the podcast of the last show, but why does Mick, who was possibly the next, if we got to it, piece of feedback, say, on a lighter note, The roast of Captain Nick was hysterical.
Mm.
I don't know.
Did you guys?
Well, hey, I gotta go. We're gonna go ahead and stop the broadcast and take care,
Wait, what?
everybody. No,
We
I don't know
roasted?
what he's talking about. Actually, I saw that. I don't know. I don't remember a roast of Captain Nick.
Well, if Rick had been rude to me, I have to go and listen to the second half of that show now.
I don't remember.
Was he talking about the last show?
But yeah, when did he send this? He sent this January 8th.
So that would be the last episode.
Dreadful ATC incident recently. Oh, he was talking about the turn south stuff. So that was not last
That was
episode.
the last
was it?
show.
Was it?
So I'm
No,
going
I
to go
don't
and
think
see
so.
what
Was
you
it-
guys said about me.
That was 2 shows ago that we were talking about the Eva Air, I
Really?
think. Wasn't it?
Well, don't forget that show was split into 2.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
hey,
Mick.
Nick, don't worry about it.
When
Don't-
just
no,
well, let us know. I'd like to go back and listen to it too. So just let us know what episode you found that
I'll
in,
see how
and we'll all
funny
go
it
have a
was.
laugh.
I really don't remember what he's talking about.
No idea.
Anybody in the chat room? Okay, look, most of the people in the chat room here were there for everything. So did we roast Captain Nick?
Yeah. And what color did they roast me? Was I medium roast or dark roast?
Micah.
Well, I heard that the lighter roasts have more caffeine in them.
Oh, there you go.
Is
Oh,
that
is
true?
that right? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
Oh,
either.
come
Something I
on.
learned recently.
You guys are making
No
fun
roast
of me.
at all, says
No.
Micah.
Anybody? Yeah, Micah says no roast at all.
Oh, well, there you go. In that case,
I really don't.
Mick must have been on something.
Well,
Mick
that's a nice way to get us all thinking about something.
By
that
the
may
way,
have
yeah,
never happened.
if we can get it into the next show, that would be great. But that, did you see the movie of that 727 driving off the edge of the runway, edge of the through the edge of the airport?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that amazing? Well, it's at the bottom of the feedback. So
That was an incident a while back in December.
It was a little back. December.
Oh yeah, I did see that, but we never talked about it.
No, I mean, but it's about 3 different people filmed this thing plowing off the end of the runway in full power, and then go straight through the barbed wire fence and out into the bundu. It's quite.
Did it finally make it airborne?
No.
No.
Oh,
It crashed.
I was going to say yes. The 727 is a great airplane.
But
No,
there
it
are
crashed.
some other links about the 727 being used in, by the CIA and by other people in third world countries on pre-prepared or partially prepared strips, dirt strips, whatever. Very impressive shit, really good.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Brave, is what I say, but there you go.
In fact, I think didn't the Russians build something that looks a lot like the 727, a 3-holer, but they put the landing gear was like truck style. Had like 4 wheels on each landing gear instead of 2 for off field or what do you call that? Not prepared, unprepared surface kind of stuff.
Yeah, could well be, but I mean, wasn't that thing that killed all the members of the choir one of those sort of Russian copies of?
Yeah, I think you're right. The Tu-154, maybe that's what that.
They're so dangerous. They let military guys fly them.
They're expendable.
Exactly.
Let's see, Tu-154. See what that baby looks like. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly the airplane. It's
Tu-154. You said.
Yeah, it's like got really the gear is like a really widely spaced. It's a lot further out than the 727s, and it has the landing gear trucks.
That's
it's
interesting.
a pretty cool looking airplane. Scary, actually.
Yeah, a little scary.
Well, I suppose it's an advantage with that having the intake so high. You could probably use it in rough strips without too much worry. Unless, of course, the main gear started throwing up stones. But I think there were modifications they did to stop stones and stuff off, unprepared strips from being thrown into the engines.
That might be part of the reason why they have the main landing gear spaced out so far on the wing.
Yeah, could be.
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool looking airplane, I think. But I'm kind of fond of that kind of style airplane.
Is it got a
nostalgic.
Has it got a bomber's panel in the nose so they can convert it to a bomber?
I don't know.
TU-144.
No, TU-154, I think.
Yeah, 154.
Yeah. I think there is a 144 too, but I don't think it's the same type of airplane.
Doesn't appear to have to. They always had that really long bullet on the front of the top of the fin. Never knew quite why that was so long. Always looked a bit weird. It was
must be some kind of a
feature
antenna or radar or something.
144 commercial supersonic transport aircraft.
Oh, that's why the 144 sounds so familiar. Yeah. I think I've heard somebody like on Plane Tales talking about that.
Yeah.
Not so commercial. Supersonic.
Yes. Yes.
I think you said something like that.
Was officially the first commercial supersonic passenger transport.
Not quite as successful as the Concorde.
Nah. Which itself wasn't particularly successful.
Yeah.
That looks all right. It does. It's got 777 undercarriage, for heaven's sake. This one I'm looking at, it's got three sets of wheels each side.
Oh, it does? That many? Wow. That's nice. That'd be probably easy to make a nice smooth landing, I would think. Yeah, you're right.
On a nice gravel runway.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, maybe not. Lots of flap too. Look at that. That'd be a fun airplane to fly, I bet.
I think they crash quite a lot, Jeff. So I wouldn't be enjoying it myself.
Well, you know, the chances of me actually flying it is probably pretty slim to none. Anyway. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for hanging with us.
Brilliant.
The football game should have started about half an hour ago. I wonder what's going on there. Well, I'm going to go and watch that and put everything away and get ready for bed.
Yes.
So, thank you, one and all.
Bet down, Jeff, to see who's going to win.
No, I don't bet. I don't care about that stuff.
Ooh.
What's going on with it? I was waiting to see what's going on with the game.
Did
you find out?
I got to put a channel 36.
I could probably just do a Google search here too.
And it is 0-0 in the first quarter. 9:33 left, so they've only been playing
just
for
started.
2.5 minutes or whatever.
Well, time to lay back on that unwrinkled bed of yours, crack a beer, and enjoy the game.
I think you're right. That's what I'm going to do. So, au revoir.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.